So you were in war zones. No, we were.
But I was just wondering if there was a biblical reason for some religions they won't use toilet paper and they just use their left hand specifically.
I don't know that. I don't know. I just feel like you don't
wipe with their left hand, but they use toilet paper.
That just sounds like you got pranked when you were in Iraq.
It might be.
It's like, this is how we do it here.
I have to eat right-handed.
Yeah. Damn, dude.
They will
You
never
fell
come
for that
clean.
old trick.
I love it.
You don't have to wear
We're
those
good now.
if you don't want to.
I do, actually.
All right.
Here, put my hat on top of the hat.
What is the white? What is that?
This is so embarrassing. It's like you caught me stuff in my bra. This is what I have to do.
Jeez. What is it?
Well, the hat's too big. I have a little head, so I have to stuff the sides. Look, there's a
Why
lot-
don't you get a hat that fits?
Well, because I get all my hats from the Goodwill store. You think I'm going to be like, oh, do you have this in another size at the Goodwill store? So I got to take what I can get.
All these years I thought you had them custom made or something.
No, I mean, one of these days I'll have
Wait
my
till
own.
someone dies.
Could you
own
take a
line.
hat to a tailor like you could a suit and get it refit to your head? Or
There has to be something.
I mean, I imagine there's got to be things but they probably cost money. is the
Yeah,
problem.
well,
So,
you'd think it'd be invested, but just the comfort. You wear it so much that you would.
well,
spend
it's
the
not.
money.
This is not the only hat I have. This is just the one I wear when I do fancy podcasts.
What
like
percentage of your hats do you have to alter the interior?
Not very many. Not very many. I usually get the small size, but just this one was only on this size. And this is just like, well, actually, this one's large, but I
You just
usually
like the hat so much, you're like, I gotta get it.
I really wanted a light gray hat.
Have you always been a hat guy? Have you always?
No, I got into hats when I was like 24, and then I started comedy when I was 25. So it kind of coincided that it overlapped because a lot of people think I was like, oh, so you started comedy, so you started wearing hats to for the look or whatever. And
I was thinking as soon as you started going bald, you got the hat.
I still had a little bit of hair.
Right.
Well, I actually had. Yeah, no, I still had. I could pass as not losing hair, but no, so it had nothing to do with that. I just like wearing hats. Yeah, I could pass. And that you can hide it enough. You have enough hair to cover the bald. Well, what do you want to know?
Did it take you a while to hit on the style of hat that was you? You know what I mean? Or did you try? Were you a baseball cap guy? Immediately a fedora? What would you?
I did used to wear baseball hats, but I mean, just like anybody else wears baseball hat, wasn't like a look thing.
Right.
With the hats, though, I did. Originally, I just when I first started wearing hats, it wasn't like a trendy thing yet, so they were hard to find. Like I didn't know where to. So when I finally found one, I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get it. But it was fucking huge. Like this is actually not a fedora. Everybody calls it a fedora.
It's a pork pie hat.
No, it's not. It's called a tribly or a trilby or something like that, and that's because the brim is shorter than a fedora. But a real fedora is huge, and I have a tiny head, so it looks immense.
I didn't know you got them at Goodwill.
Oh yeah, most of them I have. I used to get them at Hot Topic, but I don't even. Do
You
those still
scalp
exist?
issues or any scabies or what is it?
What?
No.
Scabies.
Oh.
I imagine you get that. Not lice. I imagine you get head scabies or something. I wouldn't
I
try
love
it.
that you're stuck on that he got it from Goodwill. Since he said that,
absolutely.
you're like
The whole time for 10 minutes.
Yes, like there's probably bugs in his whole.
I can't
house.
imagine. Someone's this hat's not good enough for us anymore. Let's give it away.
Most of my wardrobe is Goodwill. All these jackets, all these.
Do you
things.
wash them or?
Yeah, I throw them straight up in the.
No,
You can't
Paul, he
launder
doesn't
that.
wash his clothes. What is the
Well,
matter?
the hat you can't wash. You can't wash it; it would lose its shape.
Throw it right
So
in the
you
dishwasher. What
I
are you
would
talking about?
I mean, the hats I rarely ever.
do anything. Just put it right on your head, though. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be all kinds of mites.
I don't have hair though. It's like I don't
That's
really have to
true.
worry about hair issues.
They could embed in the scalp, though. They'll get in the skin.
No, they can't.
A
What the
fungus
fuck are you
could.
talking about? This is like how The Last of Us started. I think
They'll
is
dig
that-
under the skin. A mite would get under your skin.
No, I don't think that's possible. Some fungi.
Yeah, it gets in your skin.
A
That's
mite
it.
isn't a fungi, is it? It's
No,
an
but
actual
I'm saying
thing.
just things you don't want, undesirable things. That's all I'm thinking about. Things that could be in a hat breeding.
This is all you think about all the time is
I didn't know. I thought
microscopic-
Those were new hats. I hate it.
microscopic beings injecting themselves into your skin.
Yeah,
So
you
it
shouldn't
just-
do it. You got to buy them new.
What? Oh, well.
How much was a new pork pie hat cost?
I don't have cruise ship money, Paul.
Listen,
I was gonna say
Big
we gotta
timing.
take you gotta take him hat shopping. This is
I
Yeah,
bought
see?
you. I bought a new
Exactly.
one.
Okay, let's do that.
I don't know where you go.
What are you doing after the podcast?
I don't want to go today.
Let's go hat.
No, when's
shopping.
your birthday? October? March?
March. Yeah.
We'll go in March.
All right.
I'm not home, but we'll go in March.
Is your head... At what point does the head... Like, could you just go to like a kid? Like, I was thinking they don't have like a big and fat store for heads, but the opposite or whatever. Like, would you
or
buy
like a tiny head, like a
kid store?
Beetlejuice? Did you say a kid's store?
Yeah, or kids have big heads too. What is it?
Well, but kids, how many kids do you see wearing fedora hats?
That's
you know
a good
what
point.
They don't market to kids. I wish that they marketed to children more. I wish they were like Jewel and marketed hats to kids. But no, I don't. It's hard to find in any kind of. Well, it's just hard to find, honestly, these because it's not as trendy anymore. It went like when I started, it wasn't trendy. Then it went super trendy, and now it's back on the downside. So now they're harder to find. So it's not really like I have much selection to choose from. You know,
Okay.
like
You sort of had diplomatic immunity with the whole. It's because people think it's a fedora, and then
Right.
fedoras have that douche stigma, right?
Yeah.
But you outlasted that, and no one talked about your fedora. We never talked about it.
no, it was taboo for a long time.
But some guys, I feel like you're the only person that pulls
What do you
it
mean
off.
it was taboo? What is that?
I'm just fucking.
Oh,
around.
okay. So how's comedy going?
It's been good. It's been busy on those ships.
When you say busy, what do you mean? Just grinding at work? Like at first you were worried about that you wouldn't have enough shows. What have you sort of hit on as far as that goes? Do you have like 5 different half hours?
Yeah, 5 different half hours, 3 adult, 2 clean. Yeah, but and still want it like better. You still want it tighter and stuff like that. So
How often are you still able to write and like? Do you have 6 half hours now?
No.
Because you're like, you
don't have 6.
Can you write within each one, or do you have like a show where you're
See,
writing?
actually, it took me forever to get them together, and then I don't feel like I was trying to remember old stuff, current stuff, tag new stuff, and I got that going. And then I don't think I was writing enough brand new stuff, and now finally I'm getting around to like writing that over the last few months of getting a couple new things, forcing them in, and they're starting to work a little bit, but not enough to make me happy. So now I'm like new, and purge some of this old shit. So now, but I feel like the longest time it was just like organize these sets. Remember that joke.
How did I
Move
do that?
joke.
Oh, that one fits. Yeah.
Change that closer. It was a year and a half of that. So my mind wasn't on new stuff as much.
How do you guys test out new material? Like, do you actually test out new material on the boats?
I mean, you can squeeze in something in the middle there. That's always the way I've done it anyway in like headline sets and clubs. You put it in the middle somewhere.
Or open with it.
You open with it?
Maybe I have. But
Sometimes, like I'll do like whatever the opener is, sort of at that. It's usually right now. It's like, I've had a great day. I hope you don't ruin it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it's like, and then I try to have something like that. At the
I've seen
start
you
of every
close on
show.
new jokes, like in the Bahamas he did.
Yeah,
That's great.
I try to, or I'll get to the end of the thing and be like, but like he's saying on there. It's more like you're saying. You got to put them in. But it's like I'm just getting there. I feel like you said, it's been like a time of building them and building these shows. Then you go to another ship and it's like, okay, we want you to do 2 clean 45. And like I was just telling you, it's like, I just did it, but you slip and you like forget and you tell a couple jokes that are maybe because they give you a list of topics they don't want you to talk about too. So,
Oh, really?
I haven't had that.
well, it's pretty understood. You don't do religion. You don't do politics.
Oh.
You don't talk about like you're getting ready to get on this other one that we were talking about. And I just was reading my contract after I got off, and it was like, don't talk to the guests about even off stage.
Wow.
Don't get into conversations with people about politics.
Oh,
and
okay.
See,
I've
that
never
throws-
seen anything like that.
That throws me off even more. I did a base in Huntsville. They have there's some sort of Air Force base. in Huntsville.
Redstone Arsenal?
That one.
Yeah,
I think
it's a missile
Sabo-
engineer base.
Yeah, so I did that once, and in the itinerary it didn't really say you have to be clean. It just gave you subjects that you shouldn't be talking about. And
There's your set list.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And so that threw me off more. Like if you tell me I got to do clean, then I'm like, all right, I can do stuff that's not sexual or not curse. But when it's like, oh, so I just can't even touch like racial stuff, like that's the sort of thing that they didn't want you to talk about. Like that actually threw me off more than when I'd been told before to be like, oh, don't.
Oh
curse.
yeah. Yes.
Or
it
don't do
does.
sexual material. It's like, okay, now I really have to think about what I'm.
Because you start getting into something and you're like, oh, like that's
Yeah.
what happens. Like you get start to get too comfortable where it's like, oh, I can just do a different 45 than I did for the open one. I don't have to, but I can.
Right.
And then you sort of start doing that, and you're like, oh yeah, shoot.
Yeah, this leads into that.
That's you know, and then right.
There's also like a disconnect sometimes. Clubs or those ships. It depends sometimes. I don't know with that, but I haven't done it yet. Where the what's written and what's done is two different things. You get there and they're like, no, that doesn't apply here.
Oh, right.
Half the time it's that. They're like, what? No, we don't. That was a rule from 8 years ago.
So you start to learn that like all you gotta do is do good. All you gotta do is be really funny. But you can't. You got to be more. You got to be more careful of people being offended. Like if you realize, oh, people get offended at any jokes about fat, somebody's gonna complain. If you say something that's sort of on a line of like, that might be like.
But there's no way of predicting that before you start.
Exactly.
The show,
so you just have to like, a lot of us like to say the thing like that's gonna make people feel punched in the face a little bit and be like, so you just take a few more of those things out. That's what I'd try to do.
Like it's just in Atlantic City and the casino only itinerary.
So you just got to be funny.
It said PG-13. Which I was there years ago. And I remember that I got there and they were like, nah, it's looser, but just don't go crazy. And then I went this time, I'm like, what's this? I don't remember. Is this PG? And they're like, whatever. Don't worry about it. That's an old thing. Just do whatever you do. We have so-and-so here. They say all kinds of outlandish shit. And so then it was like, oh, okay. All right.
But I think the writing thing, I don't think that we can stop doing it. You continue to do it, right? You continue to throw in a line here and there, or try to like, I thought of this thing, and you start to say. I think we're still.
I do with like new stuff. What I'll do is if I have a joke about an ex-girlfriend, like a brand new joke, then I have stuff about ex-girlfriends or relationships or sex, and I can squeeze it in there as a tag. And if it goes well, then I can continue on with it, or I can bail on it. Yeah. So I put it in a chunk where it almost seems like a tag, but it's an attempt at a new bit.
Same.
You know what I mean? Put it in all the girlfriend jokes and all that stuff. I do that a lot. Like have chunks that are sort of separate in my head of, this is my drinking, sobriety, this is my ex-girlfriend stuff. And then the closers are sort of different. This is a closing thing. And then, whatever it fits, put it in the middle.
And sometimes I'll work like if I'm working on Carnival and doing 5 shows, or on NCL, sometimes you're doing 7, you're doing shows in the club. And I'll do like I do. I'll bring a little piece of paper out and put it on the thing and be like, all right, I'm gonna try these 3 things.
When we had the Bahamas, he did that. He closed on it. It's amazing to watch, though. He'll just closing on new jokes. Well, it'll kill, and he's just like, good night. And I'm like, that's pretty amazing.
Well, what Tom described was basically the opposite of what you said. You did your stuff in the middle. He's doing it at the beginning, at the end.
I'm trying. I want to try it, but it's hard enough to sometimes have enough material on, because you're doing so much stuff. So that the audience ends up, because they come back, and then it's like they're very forgiving of like, hey, you guys have seen me do 3 hours so far this week. Here's some new stuff, and it's not all new stuff. It's jokes that
we write totally differently though.
Yeah,
you write jokes. I write more complaints. Garbage. Oh, it's just garbage.
I thought that's where you were going.
I just wrote 5 pages of garbage this week. I didn't. But I can't.
Because you knew Paul was coming.
Yeah, but I can't take it right to the stage. I don't hardly ever take it unless it's something like that I wrote that day. That's like, oh, that goes with the thing, and or that'll be funny to try. Like I thought of the guy who was bringing me up.
MC?
He's very British. He was like a cruise director, right? Very British. Oh. And so I thought, I'm going to say, he keeps saying I'm brilliant, but he's British. He could mean I'm a cunt. Right? And I was like, I'll say that. I'll do some of that. But I won't go like, I just wrote this chunk about immigration. I'm going to work on that tonight.
Do you hit local shows when you're not?
Sometimes I try to here.
Okay.
Yeah, these guys got a great thing here going here, so I love going in and doing that, but I haven't for when I'm really working a lot.
Because that's the thing is like if you're doing the road, even if you're busy, you're back home at least for a few days where you could try stuff out. But like when you have days off on the boats, you're just on the boat, right? There's not like an open mic or something that you can hit up.
No. You're off. That's it.
Right.
I'm trying to text people and here's my new joke I just wrote. You know what I mean? So I do that, and then they get. I'll text him a call. He hates jokes.
Yeah,
we just don't write.
That's why he doesn't write them.
Yeah, I love it. I wish I could, but I can't. That whole time we were in the Bahamas, that first day we sat down, we're gonna write together. And then you just started rattling off 20 jokes to me. Like, I can't. This is making me panic. And then I'm like, I can't do this. We writing a monologue tonight?
No, what I do is I open up the notebook and I have lists of topics or whatever, and then I read through the notebook and I'm trying to see, is this funny? Does this idea spark anything? What do you think? I'm trying to get a react. Like hearing myself say it out loud sort of makes me see if it's funny too, or like almost everything I write down, I feel like at the time is either an interesting thought, a premise, or.
Have you ever had a writing partner? Oh, this is my buddy that I always write with?
I think Kostaki used to, and I would have said that about Kostaki. Yeah, we would go and sit and write and pace around his mom's like guest room.
Because I've never done that, but it feels like it would be something so productive. Like there's so many, like I've gotten so many tags from comics sometimes just because they heard me tell the joke on stage or whatever. But if you're like actually, going back and forth with somebody, it seems like it would be very productive. But I got Paul, and
he doesn't write jokes. You do your podcast, which is Card Sharks, right?
Yeah.
Where you guys are playing cards and joking around. And do you write for that when you go in? Do you have a couple things like through the week that you're like, oh, I thought that?
Sometimes, well, not really material wise. Mostly, it's just like, oh, this funny thing happened. Let me mention it to the guys.
Right.
There's been a few times,
but isn't that where you get jokes from too?
What?
This funny thing happened. Here's the thing. And then you tell it to the crowd.
And well, not really. I'd like this funny thing happened, and then just kind of riff it with the crowd. Yeah. Do you do that?
Well, the funny thing happens, and then you try to find the way like you would. To me, the crowd is no different than how I would figure out how to tell that story to you or to Paul or to Seth, and be like, when I was coming in, the guy in the Starbucks, and then. Hopefully, I think the joke.
Like you're just having a conversation with the audience, kind of, about this funny thing that happened.
That's ultimately what I'm trying to get to. I think, like that's in the final. I don't do that when I'm on the crowd, but I try to write that joke about the same thing. Like to me, if I think of something that I would tell somebody else, I would start to think, okay, that's a joke. Somewhere in there is a joke.
Right. I see what you're saying.
I think of it like talking to people or to you. I'm like, is this original? That's what I'm checking first. You haven't heard anything like this. And then if I start talking it out, like I can see in your eyes, you're like, what? This is confusing. And I can see like, oh, I got to cut some shit out of this.
Yeah.
They don't understand. And then the funny part, sometimes I'm like, I'd rather just go by myself and write that. If you understand the idea, you're like, I haven't heard that. Oh, that's interesting. Then I'm I'll punch it up.
What do you mean you go by yourself and write
I like to do it by myself. I don't like writing with someone else.
But what does that mean to you? Do you pace around saying words out loud?
Or sometimes muttering to myself, walk around, take a walk. I like doing that. I love being in a hotel room by myself. I don't like to be around people. I think I get too self-conscious about it. And like talk it out in the car, daydreaming.
But you're not sitting down on a page writing.
Sometimes I do. But you know what I've realized now is like writing my phone is sort of better than the page now. Because I think somehow when I'm sure other people have thought like this, with like a whole page, you feel like you have to fill it, right? And then in my phone, it feels like it comes out closer to how I would say it.
Okay.
I feel like on the page, it's closer to how you would read it. I don't know. It just feels like I'm writing and writing and writing, and I got to use more words. Here, I just write the line that's funny, and it's like I would say it to you. I'm like, oh, I'll just write it down real quick.
You write the exact wording?
Yes. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Because I get it right. Even if it's sloppy, or that's the way I would say it, or it's incorrect somehow, it sounds right. Rhythmically, it sounds right. That's the way I would say it in real life, versus when I get a piece of paper out, I write it like it's a fucking book, and there's more pressure to it.
Okay.
I don't know if I think subconsciously it's like, this needs to be funnier read than heard.
What'd you do before your phone?
I put it on the page, and it would always be this daunting thing. But I forced myself to do it. I still carry a notebook and stuff. Because some things need to be like written out and stared at, and like I need to go back. Or bigger ideas, like it helps me with angles. Like on an idea, like I can't figure that out. All right, what's the second angle? Write that out in a paragraph. What's the third angle? And then I'll look over those 2 pages and like, that's the funniest angle. For like bigger ideas, but for short things or things that just fall into my head, or I just like, I think that's funny. I just put it in my phone.
Do you ever go from your phone to the page? Like you go through your phone and you're scrolling through things, and you're like, oh, let me write on that a little bit, or do you just go right into the phone, adding to it?
I try to do both, whatever feels right in the moment sometimes. But yeah, now it's like, and now I'm trying to like any idea that I used to just blow off, any little small idea, I don't know now, even if it's a tag, because I used to like, well, that's not a joke, that's like a thing, like a tag. I write those down now.
Like I was thinking that when you started talking about mites.
Mites?
Yeah, like mites is that's a Paul Hooper word. That's like a thing, you know what I'm saying? Like,
mites.
Yeah, like you're going, oh, there's skin mites. Like you get to that. To me, that, yeah, like it either feels like you know that's funny already. That's why you said it, or that would be something like that.
I don't think it's obscure, but you're right. If you use it like a reference on a comment, it's lost on most people.
Mite is a funny word.
It is a funny word, and it shouldn't be obscure.
Everybody knows what a mite is. I think
a little bug, right?
Yeah.
We also said scabies earlier too.
Scabies.
That's a funny pirate disease.
I love scabies.
Paul knows
of lice.
every disease from like the 16th and 17th century.
I love it. Yeah, rickets.
Yeah.
Fucking rickets.
It's
Scurvy.
It's got a guy's name right in it.
Yeah, rickets. I don't even know what rickets was. My stepdad told me something about rickets and scurvy. He used to say some reference rickets and scurvy, and I committed it to memory as a kid.
Scurvy's a good
It's just
one.
a boat disease, right? They used to get it on the boat.
Scurvy's like a not
get
eating
vitamin
fruit.
C.
Not eating fruit. Yeah.
Okay. And rickets, I can't remember. I have rickets in a
joint
joke,
thing,
and I
right?
acknowledge that I'm ignorant, and I just wanted to say it.
You just want to say rickets.
Yeah,
We don't even know what it is.
and they laugh too. I'm like, more people get that reference.
I think of it as like an old person has trouble walking, the kind of disease.
I say
What is
someone has cholera or rickets, and they laugh. I mean, maybe they're laughing at cholera, but I just love.
They
Cholera is another good one.
Yeah.
More people than you would think laugh at it, and I don't know why.
Cholera rolls off the tongue. Well, cholera.
Cholera and
Good one.
rickets.
Cholera and rickets.
Rickets is the softening and weakening of bones in children.
Oh,
I was
Christ.
thinking
that's
old people.
good.
I thought it was an adult thing. Yeah, I didn't know. Either way, I'm still going to use
You
it.
ever do mesothelioma?
No,
That's a good one
That's a
too.
good one. If you can get it out.
Yeah, if you can get it out without tripping on it.
Mesothelioma.
Yeah. I love obscure references, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
The
Sometimes
consumption, you ever do the consumption?
Not the
Oh,
consumption.
you
That's
gotta
a great one.
get a good angle on the
The
consumption.
consumption is like
I forget what the actual...
malaria.
Is that what it is? No, I don't think it is malaria.
was like
Consumption
diarrhea.
junction.
It's like
That's what
Wild
it is.
West.
That's right.
Function.
Consumption is something you got in the old Wild West.
I think that's
I thought it was diarrhea.
Yeah, think of it like a malaria.
Wasting disease, especially pulmonary tuberculosis.
I think
yeah.
people
Don't
in a
call it
Eugene O'Neill that play die of like consumption. They're consumed. There's like
Yeah.
You never believe this. I never saw that play. Whatever
I
you
Is it
haven't either.
diarrhea?
I just somehow have read that one of his plays, like A Long Day's Journey into Night or something like that.
I know his name.
That was just an answer on Jeopardy the other day. That's the only reason I know that. That was the answer.
Eugene O'Neill.
No, the question was what play did Eugene O'Neill write?
Consumption.
And no, the Longest Day's Journey into Night.
Yeah, and there's like a consumption outbreak going around, like that people die of consumption in it or something.
Jesus.
I love you. You ever heard Nick Mullen's bit about diarrhea?
No.
How it's like this is another subject that we talked last time we were here. We're just
We're
repeating the same
some. Every year we're going to do it.
But it's just
Reminisce.
funny because it's like, people tell jokes about diarrhea all the time, but, back in the early days, it was a serious thing. It's like,
It's
people.
still a serious. Like there's people in the
Yeah.
in the
Well,
world
people
that-
still die, but it's a funny thing to talk about.
Yeah, no.
But back in the day, it would have been like, hey, like if you told a joke about diarrhea, somebody would be like, whoa, dude, her grandma just
Really?
died of diarrhea.
That's
You
funny.
don't want to, don't bring that up.
Oh, yeah. The dehydration gets you, right?
Yeah, I
why
think
food
that's what it
poisoning
is.
dies.
Yeah, because you lose a lot of
Just can't
liquid.
keep anything down. Yeah.
What was the cholera thing I read about? The guy that sort of, I don't know, cured it? Famous
Sorta
doctor.
cured it.
Well, no, it was a town in England or whatever. Everybody's dropping dead, right? Everybody's getting sick, this epidemic. And they realized that they're pumping the water, the town water pump. They all use the same fucking water pump, and they're throwing the baby's diapers into the lake.
No.
And that's where they're pumping the water. And he's just like, he changed the water pump or the handle or something, and everybody stopped dying. It was very like a,
very simple thing.
like quit doing that. Quit throwing your waste. That's not your drinking water. You would
like
think
you-
humans would pick up on earlier.
Seems like it
but
would help them build
that
up their
doesn't seem right.
immunity.
Huh? No, not that whole argument. Well, I always think that of like how far back with human beings of like our waste stinks. That's the warning. Don't eat it.
It is.
That's why it stinks. It's a warning from nature. Don't put that near anything you ingest.
That
I would
is-
think
yeah.
early on before we had all this science, right? You would
Yeah,
just
it's even in the Bible
know.
to do that. It's like, here's how to poop in the desert. Like they say
Yeah,
that in the
don't-
Bible.
Yeah.
That's in the Bible.
Yeah.
I didn't
like
know
it tells
that,
them
but-
how, when they're in the desert, it's like, here's how you get rid of your shit.
You cover it like a cat, right?
Yeah.
What does he say about wiping?
I don't think that's in there. I don't remember.
That was later, but that's a great addition.
Bible's more
Great
about
addition.
bidets, but
Yeah.
right? Bible's bidets. Yeah, I just started. That's why they don't talk about wiping in the Bible.
I don't know if because there's. Did you perform in Iraq or Afghanistan?
In the neighboring countries, we weren't in war zones.
He's not that brave.
Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, however you say it. Djibouti. I almost said Somalia. Djibouti.
Okay.
And Bahrain. So you were in war zones. No, we were.
But I was just wondering if there was a biblical reason for some religions they won't use toilet paper and they just use their left hand specifically.
I don't know that. I don't know. I just feel like you don't
wipe with their left hand, but they use toilet paper.
That just sounds like you got pranked when you were in Iraq.
It might be.
It's like, this is how we do it here.
I have to eat right-handed.
Yeah. Damn, dude. You fell for that old trick.
I love it.
That was another one of those, since you brought up bases, like we're talking about, like give you instructions. I've never done a military gig, but I've heard friends of mine that have, where they like, all right, you can't talk about all kinds of shit like when you do a military gig. But it's almost like whoever gives you those instructions is like, listen, I have to say this to you, but they're gonna love every dirty ass shit you do on like the actual soldiers, the actual audience. But it's almost like we have to tell you this, so we got to pretend to go through the rigmarole.
We did it. Sean Kent was in charge of us, so we did it for like Armed Forces Entertainment. But they loved him, so he brought us. He's like, well, next I'll do another tour, but let me bring the comics I want. So he picked us, me, Matt, and Kristen, and then he's like the guy in charge. He's the ringleader, so he made the rules, and he got the whole thing. Like, they want us to be clean, but he's like, fuck that. They don't want to hear that. We're gonna do it. So, and we got written up.
Oh, we did
on a base, yeah. An inspector general on a base got involved. We didn't meet that guy, but he passed word down to the guys that are in charge of us, like, guys, you got to take it easy. Someone complained. Like, someone was doing some joke and a female soldier heard it, but it was like an outdoor show. So you don't know if it was someone walking by or crowd work. It wasn't me. I would own up to it, but it was someone else, one of the other two guys. I don't think neither one of them owned up to it. Said something, maybe a vagina joke. I don't know. They referenced a female soldier. And it was just filth.
You were on it like military bases. You'd have learned not to throw your team under the bus like that.
Yeah,
it wasn't me. I'll tell you that. It was the other two.
No, we weren't a team at all. We didn't learn any of that shit. You know, it was like a band on the verge of a breakup every day.
Somebody throws a grenade, and they're like, "Hey, grenade, Paul! You might want to jump on that."
Yeah, and then so we were reprimanded. Then Sean's like, "No, we're not changing." I just respect him for that. He's like, "We're not." No. He's like, I'll make an announcement. He was hosting, so he's like, I'll go up and put a disclaimer on it.
That's awesome.
He's like, we're not fucking changing this, watering it down. And those guys that were in charge of us were sort of like, well, we were just told to tell you. That looking at us like, that's not a good idea. We just disregarded it. I mean, granted, none of us went back. I don't know. We didn't even try to go back, but we got through it. He's like, they're not going to fly us home. They're not going to fire us and buy us new flights to go home because of this. So fuck it. Let's do it.
That's kind of ballsy, man, to do that. Because most people would be thinking about the next contract.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to lose this gig. Like,
oh, yeah.
And maybe we did. I don't know. I thought about going back, but then you had to put all this work to go back. And I was like, I don't care. So
yeah, I remember Bevins was not happy with me in Iraq because of some of the jokes I was doing. And maybe it was Afghanistan, where they kept saying, Simmons, you can't do that stuff, man. And then they pulled this prank on me where they acted like the general came by and made sure to tell them, don't give him one of the coins because of what he was saying up there.
Oh, that's fun. But no one cared, right? You got away with it. You got laughs, I'm sure.
Yeah. And you can tell after one or two times of telling jokes, like, okay, they don't like that.
Yeah,
and
you know what I noticed?
So you take it, not the people in the back don't like it, but the crowd would get, when they didn't like something, they're like, okay, I'll do a different joke next time.
You know what I noticed? So one time we were in Djibouti, Africa. We had a Friday, Saturday night. It was like 500 in this room. They could fit 500, and you know it's free. They come in to see a comedy show, and then I was like, we were disregarding the rules about being clean. So I thought I had a lot of dirty shit. I did all my dirty shit the first night, and the next night you realize, this is the same venue, and if they liked you Friday, they're coming back Saturday. So another 300 of them were repeat audience. Then I'm like, I have no more dirty stuff. And then my OCD shit doesn't work in front of the military. You're a little neurotic. You're worried the door's unlocked. They're like, get the fuck out of here. Who are you? They boo you off for being a pussy? And I'm like, oh, sorry. And I'm like, well, you know what I mean? It limits what you can talk about. You talk about sex, booze, something aggressive. But anything short of that, we don't want to hear your whiny shit.
Yeah.
Which I'm like,
that's funny.
It was fun though.
How the show it was always better than you thought it would go.
But the second night, even if it was tough, they didn't hate. It wasn't like the animosity of a comic. They hate. It's just like that was tougher. You know, it was tougher. I didn't have as much stuff to do.
I got a great joke out of them telling me not to do jokes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been a joke I've told since then. That's like 2007 or whenever when we were over there.
That's great.
Yeah, it was the same thing. He said, don't do jokes about. No more joke. Don't do any jokes about Muslims.
Right.
That's what we were told. Nothing about the president, nothing about the Islam, and nothing.
Were you were you performing for
so.
the American or Iraqi troops?
The American troops.
wow,
Sometimes,
okay.
sometimes British were too over there in Iraq too. It was more like, there was like the first night they said no.
Oh no, I just meant like if you were performing for the Mujahideen.
Yeah. No. But there was locals that worked on the bases.
Yeah.
So they would be. Some of them would be in the back. But the first thing was no rape jokes, which is cool. I didn't have any at the time about.
Yeah, they got plenty of rape in the military already. They don't hear jokes about it.
Yes, that's sort of the point. Like,
Yeah.
that's another right. That 26,000 a year
Golly.
for
Really? It's
years in a
crazy.
row, like
Wow.
sexual assaults in the military. So give it up for the troops.
Yeah, right.
Or they will force you to. So it was that no can't use the N word and can't use the W word.
Now I'm trying to think what the W word is.
White, George W.
That's what I thought. It was a W because it was,
Yeah.
but it was Whitey.
Oh,
Whitey?
Whitey?
Yeah,
Really?
Who uses? How often does that come up?
yeah. That's what I was exactly like. Nobody's using Whitey. You can't. You know what I mean?
You can't do that on Facebook anymore. Now you got to do YT. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah,
Have you seen that? Like,
you can't say white trash.
Have
can
you seen that? Oh, is that what it stands for? I thought it was YT, like Whitey.
I think that's it, but you also can't say white trash. Like you'll get taken down if you
So
say
just
white
On
trash.
what?
By-
Instagram?
Facebook.
Facebook, like people, I kept seeing people post YT, the letter Y, the letter T, and I'm like, YouTube. Like I thought they were talking about YouTube, but no, that's like the way to get around
yeah.
the censorship of Facebook is YT. I thought it was Whitey. Well, maybe it is,
It
but
is,
it also
yeah,
happens to coincide with.
It's nobody is offended by Whitey. Is the point?
No, I
No,
know.
It's pretty funny actually.
Yes,
But
but
if
if you're
you-
defending our right to free speech, but you can't use it, you know what I'm saying? It makes no sense. So so that, and then they told me
Okay.
can't do jokes.
The funniest, the best set I by accident was like we did an outdoor show, and then it was one of the first ones, and I was like, Sean would host, and I go up.
They were so fun, those shows, man.
Yeah, they were, and then it was all right. I mean, in the first 3 minutes, they forgot to tell me that country or the neighboring village there was a holiday, so they started shooting fireworks 3 minutes into my set. Dude, I almost hit the floor, and dude,
Yeah.
it was just so.
And I looked for
right,
both
we're
your
good.
beers. They didn't have it. I was like, should I get some White Claw, something like that? You know what I mean? But I don't know what the kids are drinking these days.
Then I was like,
I
don't
literally-
worry about it.
we're
I don't
not
know
rec-
what the
are
people
we-
with kids' heads are drinking these days.
I saw
good.
it was. I mean, by the way, first of all, thank you for even offering, because I've done plenty of podcasts where they do not even offer to get me a drink. So thank you for that. But I just drink PBR and High Life,
Hell
which
yeah.
which is the cheapest shit you can get. But that's why you couldn't find it at Target. It's too fancy for PBR and High
Yep.
Life. But I will tell you for future reference, if somebody drinks PBR and High Life, they'll drink fucking anything.
That's what I thought.
Because it's just garbage. Like I drink the most garbage beer. So
okay.
anything.
I actually do like High Life.
You know what? Okay, I'll give you a little bit. I'll give you High Life a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
PBR is
is just
just
like,
straight
it's there,
garbage, but
yeah.
it's $2 a can.
How do you
at
feel
a
about
bar.
Natural Light? How's that?
Oof, that's even worse.
That is, but I'll still do it. The only one actually, and it's not even that it's a worse beer. Coors Light I can't do, and it's
love
and
I'll do a
Coors Light.
Coors.
I think it's because when I first started drinking as a teenager, that's what I would drink. And I would, so I have a lot of memories of fucking throwing up and the world spinning. So it's like, now when I taste Coors Light, it's like, it just kind of brings me back to that.
That's what Natural Ice does to me.
I used to
Okay.
drink a lot of Natural Light, and then Natural Light, and as a University of Georgia, so a lot of Drury's, which was a local brewery that you could get a case for really cheap.
High Life gave me a headache, I think. I drank a lot because it was cheap, but I think it really gave me a headache. And
I'm
wasn't-
used to it now. High Life or PBR, I just drink
Yeah.
it. It's just garbage beer and it's cheap. So, I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
shit the next day. But I feel like I would have felt like more shit if I'd gotten that hammered off of it, more expensive.
I never
Well,
liked
yeah.
the flavor of any beer, to be honest. And people now don't like. You want a non-alcoholic beer? There's like better non-alcoholic beers. I'm like, I was never in it for the flavor ever.
Same
Damn.
here.
Yeah,
And my
me
thing
too.
was too, like people that drank more expensive beers. My thought was, Well, after 2, they all taste the same,
Yeah.
right? Once you
That is
Yeah.
well.
so this is really just get through the first 2 or 3, and then it's like then you can switch to the worst beer, whatever beer it is.
Not necessarily though, because
No?
if you're drinking really good beer for your first 2, and then you go to shit beer, then it's really like. I mean, then
Well, you just get through the first 2 shit ones, and then you.
okay, then yeah. Well, if you're given anything enough time,
I'm with you. I was in the game. I wasn't in it for taste.
No, I
Me
wasn't
either.
in that. I was
Me
just,
either.
it was off and running. It was a race to just being hammered.
When you're shotgunning beer, you're not really worried about which brand.
No, I didn't care. I just wanted, just 8 beers
really
and 12
noticing the
shots and
notes.
just burn it down.
And this is another thing, I guess, too. I don't drink like at home. Like I only drink when I'm out doing shows or great podcasts like this one. Right. I'll bring a box of wine. But when I'm at home, I don't drink. But when I am out and I drink a beer, I can't just have 2. Like I don't.
No.
That I never got. Like okay, you're
Still
just gonna
don't
have
get
2 beers, and I'm like, all right, I'm fine. I was like, no, man, if we're in here, we're gonna just drink.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Because
Yeah.
I
again,
can do that.
I never got
I
it.
do that.
'Cause
I'll just have
here's-
2, and I'm like, I'm good.
you do that,
Yeah.
and you just stop.
Yeah.
But see, to me, it's like,
I get a little buzz, and I'm good.
oh, so you do get a okay, I
a
don't.
little bit. Yeah.
Because I'm with you guys on the taste. It's just like, so are you just drinking this shit because you like the taste? Because
Yeah.
I had a friend that was doing dry January and she was drinking Heineken, whatever, the zero.
Ooh.
And I'm like, really? Like Heineken is the one that you chose? You just love the taste
Yeah,
of
it does. 2 beers feels like edging or something. You know what I mean?
a little
To me.
bit, yeah.
Some
I don't
people
know.
are
How
into
to,
that.
if you just like, how do you? It feels starting to feel good. How do you stop it from feeling even better? I understand that like it goes off a cliff at some point,
Right.
but I'm like I don't know how to stop.
At
That's why I'm an
2.
alcoholic, I guess, or had to stop. But I wish I could be able to drink like an adult like that. 2 beers, get a buzz, like have a good night,
How you, because Tom,
go to sleep. I'm like fuck.
Tom, do you drink? You don't drink, right? But you still get high.
Yeah.
But well, like when you get high, you're not like, man, I got to get higher, right? Or are you like, I'm at that.
I never
different.
understood with weed too, like that sort of, like people smoke it and then they pass around another one and smoke another one. It's like, what do you do? Like, I don't know. If you take 2 hits, it can be high for in 2 hours, 2-3
And
hours.
you're good,
So,
right?
like,
You're not trying to get even.
I don't need to,
Right.
no, like I don't really get that. To me, it's about the just spark my brain in a different direction and then.
But it's different with alcohol. At least for me, it is. It's just like, okay, I'm a little buzzed. Okay, let's get a little buzzed. Then let's get a little buzzed and more. Like it's never like, okay, I'm at the right buzzed right now. Even though there is a right amount of buzzed, but I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
have like an alarm that goes off. Oh, boom, you're at the perfect amount of buzz. Stop. I just keep having more.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about drinking in a long time. I just don't.
Do you have a problem?
I mean, I blacked out most of the time when I just
What were the drinks you drank in college?
whatever, dude. If you
Yes, sir.
left, if somebody left a half a drink on the table, I'd drink.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
So
find
you
it
had
and
them
drink
called,
it.
what were they called? Green goddammits?
Yeah, oh yeah. We used to, yeah,
is that?
golden grain and Gatorade. We'd mix golden grain and it's like what is that, 180 proof or whatever,
Jeez.
or 80, whatever it was, golden grain, 90, whatever it was. Well, that grain alcohol, and we'd mix it with Gatorade and we called it
yeah.
green goddammits because you'd be like, God damn it.
But you're keeping
Oh, that's
hydrated
awesome.
though.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So you're health conscious at least.
Yeah.
went straight to the bloodstream. Yeah, so we would drink that. It was about, I nicknamed the guy like that lived. Remember, my parents came up after the first weekend. Like you get there before you register, and you're there like the weekend before to sort of party before school starts.
Okay.
And then the parents came up for like the parents' weekend, like right before. And we'd already been just getting hammered, And there was a guy we were playing quarters, and he was playing with like whiskey. You know what I mean? He was the drunkest guy. So my parents were like, my mom was like,
Coolest
I know
guy.
you're going to drink and party up here, but please make sure you promise me that you drink casually and party with moderation, right? So cut to that night, he's standing up on a table, rolling a quarter off his thing, drinking Lord Calvert out of a bottle. And I'm just like that, tell him that story. And then we nicknamed him Moderation.
It's like the old
so-
Gatorade commercials where they got the Gatorade sweat, but it's you over a toilet throwing up.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
So
But this was all before stand up.
right, and then right as I started stand up, I was still drinking. One of my last times drinking, I was working a one nighter in Georgia with Earthquake, and I
Like Earthquake, the comic or the drink? Because there's a drink called
no, it was
Okay.
Earthquake and I realized they made a Long Beach iced tea, which I didn't know was a thing. I liked Long Island iced teas because there was so much alcohol in them, and the Long Beach ones was cranberry juice. It just didn't taste like shit like a Long Island iced tea, right?
Oh, yeah,
so
those are the
So I drank a couple of those and then did a show, and then I woke up the next morning in my hotel room with like a styrofoam box with chicken wings all that, and we're riding back. And
that's a good point though, because those are like we're
too
talking
bad.
about alcohol fucking tasting bad. When I drink an alcohol that it actually tastes good, that's the worst, man. Because then I'm really gonna fucking start downing that shit.
Right, Earthquake just looked over and he was like, "You need to not drink ever again. You don't remember what happened last night, do you?" I was like, no.
I dated a girl in Florida who got hooked on Reuniti. Am I saying that right?
What?
That wine?
Never heard
You know
of
that
it.
shitty wine?
What is it?
Reuniti? That might be mispronounced.
Reuniti?
Riunite. See if it's still a thing, but I have to Google it.
No.
She drank it, but I was drinking all my beer and shots, and then she's like, "Let's just have a calm night."
It's
She
still
had a
around.
problem too. Is it a thing?
Yeah, it's an Italian wine.
Oh boy, it's
right.
good and cheap.
It's
and
on
you
its
get
way.
any
Do
grocery
they
store.
deliver?
And it tasted so good, and you couldn't taste the alcohol in it. You get sort of trash, but it wasn't enough, so I had to augment it with
You can
everything
get it at
else.
Walmart for $5.
Everything
Yeah.
else.
Oh yeah, it was fucking gross. But it would tear up your stomach. I mean, because you're mixing so much garbage, like fruity
Yeah.
stuff and
Yeah.
like
Oh,
liquor
sugary
and
stuff. I hate
beer.
sugary stuff.
Yeah, sugar. I'm sure the sugar, it was spiking my
Yeah,
blood
I
sugar.
quit young enough where I never really had the just waking up and days of recovery kind of thing. I just sort of.
I saw a flashback. This happened like a year ago. Spielberg posted a photo of one time in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He paid me during the Zima days. He's like, "I bet you $50 you can't snort that Zima." It's a picture of me trying to snort a Zima,
That's fine.
and I made it past the neck, and it fucked my sinuses up for a week. I mean,
I used to buy Zima and
Snorting
Smirnoff Ice just because I could pour it into a water bottle and it would look like water, so I could drive around while I still could drink, a clear liquid that wasn't going to get me stopped.
Yeah, things like some of the things you say have there's a couple of alarm bells going off.
A lot of
Yeah.
them. I think a lot of them. I mean, eventually I had a DUI, so
Right,
that
of course,
you're
like
what I mean?
you're just figuring out how to sneak your alcohol, stuff like that. You know
All
what I mean?
that.
You don't drink when you're at home by yourself. That's a good sign.
I don't, unless I'm like doing a podcast,
Okay.
like on Zoom or some shit. But otherwise, yeah, no, I don't.
What about
drink.
when during card
Social
charts?
drinker.
Yeah, I do drink a lot. I drink boxed wine. The only reason I drink boxed wine is because it doesn't make me pee as much as beer does. So I can sit here for a longer period of time.
So what explain to our listener what card charts is.
Card Charts is we play poker. It's a bunch of comics. A lot of them are kind of not very active anymore, but they used to do stand up. And
It's a group of funny dudes that are friends.
Exactly. We started during COVID because there were no shows. We had nothing to do. A lot of it. So it was just like I started playing online, and so we play on. Now we play on Poker Stars, and then we have a Zoom meeting, and we all just shoot the shit while we're playing cards, and it's all either active comics or former comics, all funny people. So it's if it's like it's not really a maybe that's why it's not that popular is because it's not really a poker podcast. So like if you're a poker fan, it's not really for you. It's mostly for comedy. If you just want to see some guys say outrageous shit as we get drunker and high.
Do you
throughout
live
the night.
stream it or do you?
We have been live streaming on Twitch. I think Trundy's probably are more frequent because he has his own thing that he does. So he's
really on board with that now.
I lie, yeah. I was like, I'm crazy. Like he's the one that's taught me shit about like how you, and he's tried to teach me more shit, but I'm like, it's just not. I'm not savvy enough to do all the tricks and bells and whistles that you can do on Twitch. But basically, yeah, it's like it's just a bunch of guys hanging out. It's definitely a guy podcast. It's not. We're definitely talking about raunchy stuff and edgy stuff as guys do when they get together. And like Paul was just on. Like a week, you didn't play.
No.
But you jumped on the Zoom though.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Do you just heckle the game or what are you doing?
I couldn't even see the game. I was
Yeah,
on my
you can-
phone. And so I couldn't even see what they were doing. So they get sort of distracted. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, they're
Yeah.
playing their hand. So it's sort of frustrating.
Every now and again, yeah, we will get involved in a hand.
I imagine you with 8 different voices that you can't see just talking
Yeah.
at one time around you.
It
would
bugs
just,
me,
you
but I
didn't-
like those guys.
Yeah, you liked everybody, so you didn't.
I like
hang out
all
with
those
me?
guys, so yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, some of those
I wouldn't do
guys-
it with another group of people, probably.
Yeah, it's a cool group of guys. I don't
Yeah.
have the patience for annoying people. So
Yeah,
I
they're
would-
funny.
I wouldn't have
It's
them
really
on the
funny.
podcast. But yeah, we had a lot of Greensboro people do it too. And
Right.
It's fun times.
Yeah, it's a good time. Yeah. No, it's like when you do podcasts.
I was going to do it, but I'm very unreliable. So I'm on.
Oh, I
You
noticed.
should do it.
I don't
You'd
even
be
have
great on it.
I don't even have a computer I have one, but I don't bring it with me on the road.
I don't
just on
know
the
how you
phone.
get. Well, Paul doesn't even. How long have you not had a computer?
7 years.
I don't know how
Wow.
how do you function
At
as a
least.
stand-up comic? Just everything
On
on
You
my
your
can
phone.
literally do everything on your phone.
Fuck, but then you got to do like press the buttons with your thumb. Like I feel like the old man talking to teenagers. Like, how do you do everything on your smartphone? Because I know I have to type
There's a
shit.
guy
or-
that drives with blue blocker sunglasses in the car.
how dare you?
You see sunglasses he drove us up here in.
I'm trying
we
to
almost
keep us
fucking
safe.
died
I'm
9
trying
times.
to keep the sun away from my retina.
It blocks his peripheries like a fucking thoroughbred
I don't need a
running down the
periphery.
highway.
Glasses are bigger than his hats.
Yeah, and
do.
he just merges into tractor
I do-
trailers.
I do echolocation, and that's how I know where everybody's placed at all times.
I thought they were joke sunglasses when he got.
No.
I thought they were a fucking.
They're great. Okay.
A gag.
They're not. They're big. There's big like fucking. You see old people wear like
Yes.
after they've had like cataract surgery.
Roy
Yeah.
Orbison
but they're
sunglasses.
but bigger than that. Like they're fucking. But I love them because I put them over these big glasses that I have, and they're great. Like that's a
I
great
don't
thing
think
about
they
as you
obstruct your
get
vision.
older, you don't care about looking cool anymore. So like they're just great. They're just like functional. But yeah, no, I look like a fucking old man, like a fucking Gambino family.
I didn't know what it was. It's strange. It looks like a problem.
But it's very practical, and that's probably how we made it safe to this. So thank you. You're welcome.
I appreciate you driving all
I
the way
do.
over
Thank
here.
you
to-
again.
Yeah.
That's what he meant to say.
I have to
Thank
drive
you.
back because of the
Thank
box
you.
wine.
Thank you for translating.
Yes.
I'm glad you're
Sorry.
here.
I'm an ungrateful
When he gets
prick.
critical, it's his way of saying he loves you.
There you go. That's
what
what
I'm
I tell
You know what I
myself, and nobody's loved me more than Paul.
That's it. I try to do it. I know we text back and forth mean stuff that I'm like, I went too far. But I think you get it. When I'm having
Yeah.
a day and I know you're having a day, it's fucking, we really spiral into negativity. But I'm like, I don't want you to think I'm bummed out by. I'm like, I'm worried about Tom, but he's really in a fucking bad spot today. But then I do the same thing to you, and I feel guilty out. I'm like, fuck, I put too much on him. He just asked how I was doing, and I just fucking.
I happened to
loaded.
catch you at the wrong time where it's like you're.
You always catch me too after a flight with no sleep, and then you fucking take a jab at me or something, and it just hits a pressure point, and then I don't come at you, just everything starts coming out.
Yes.
But isn't that the great thing? Like, have you ever run into like comics likes to give each other comic shit. It's just what we do, right? But every now and again, like if a normal person enters, he's like, "Wow, that guy really hates that guy." Like, have you ever
Yeah.
encountered that, or like, because I've had
Yeah,
something
normal
where like
people don't think it.
they think like,
yeah.
"Wow, this guy's being vicious." I was like, "No, this is just how we talk. This is how we
Yeah.
interact."
It depends.
I think
It's
you
like-
can tell, like sometimes, you know what I mean? Sometimes people hide behind that. I'm saying a joke here, but they're really just,
I feel like when comics don't like you, they just don't talk.
yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Like
It
among
gets cold.
comics, I think we can tell what the dynamic is. But when it's like an outsider looking in, I think a lot of times they take. Like I saw, there's long time ago, Jon Stewart when he was hosting the Daily Show, though he's back now, I guess. But he had Dennis Leary on, and they just kept giving each other shit back and forth. And I was a big Daily Show fan back in the day, so I was like on their news group or whatever they had back then. And people were like, "Wow, you can tell these two guys really hate each other." And I'm like, I don't think so. I think it's just two guys that have known each other for a long time, giving each
Arguing
other
back
shit.
and yeah, yeah. I remember I went to the first Thanksgiving I went to with Serena and her family. On the way home, she was like, "What was that?" And I was like, "I don't know. What do you mean?" She's like, "Why were you arguing with everybody?" I was like, "I was just having conversation." She's like,
Yeah.
"That's arguing in my family." I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
It's like like if you say something. I mean, you guys have the dynamic too, where it's like if you say something I don't agree with you, I was like, I don't know about that, man. It was like, and then you'll tell why,
Right.
And then you accept it and you consider it, and then I'll give you whatever. If I still have my opinion, I'll give you my opinion back. But yeah, I think a lot of people just say it's like, oh, you're just challenging my worldview.
My buddy quit comedy like 15 years ago or 17 years ago, and then I thought he was happy about it. And then during COVID, the whole thing was going down. I'm like, this might be it. I was telling him, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm done with stand-up. This is crazy.
I remember
And
when you were doing that.
That
You were-
whole thing I went through, it was probably more than COVID. It was probably 2019 too.
I thought you were quitting comedy like 12 years ago.
Yeah. No, 12 years ago would have been a fun time.
We've all been rooting for it for a while.
I mean, soon.
We all have
Sometime
bets
soon.
on this,
It doesn't
over,
take much.
under.
I'm right on the precipice of something. Just yeah. But then he was like, if you quit comedy, and I always thought he was happy because I'd invite him to shows. He's like, I'm never coming to a club. I'm so happy to be gone. I'm so happy to not be in a hotel room by myself. All this shit. He hated every aspect of it. Then when COVID hit and I started talking about it, like maybe I'm done. He was like, just know before you quit, you're not going to be able to talk to comics anymore. And he's like, normal people don't get it.
Yeah.
He's like, they don't deconstruct, they don't question, they don't dissect things, they don't think like you. It's not as fun to talk to them. It's fucking crazy. They don't think like we do or something, or as comics do.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, oh, he's like, so just give it some thought. Like,
Do you have that when you walk into a place or something and people start talking to you, where you just be a comedian and then you realize, oh, they don't
I see, like,
that I'm.
if there's a game on TV or some commentator says something, I'm like, why is this guy? Why would he ever think? And you start talking like that to normal people, and they're like, what? You're like, how do you not fucking see this? That's not odd. Doesn't stand out to you, or the layout of a studio. You start noticing things and comment about it, and people are just like, what?
Right.
I'm like, you don't break things down or go, why is this?
Yeah.
Why is that happening?
Or
Was
just-
that out of place? I mean, it's just like,
I think-
there it is, the big shiny things in front of my face. I don't analyze any of it.
How'd you like the Super Bowl?
I won one of the squares. I put some money in, so
look
I
at
did
you.
that. I won a square.
I won
And
2
so,
squares.
But
That's
I
what-
don't,
that's how they
fuck
hook
the
you.
game.
You hate
start on-
sport. You hate
let me
sport.
tell you something. I don't hate sports. This is the whole thing, and it's a bit, but it comes from a real place. I think the sport's great for the guys that are playing. I get jealous when I watch sports. When I watch something fun, I want to do it, and when I can't do it, I get angry or jealous. So I watch sports. I'm like, it'd be great to be them, but I'm not. So fuck this. It's like I watch people like, you see that movie? I'm like, no, because I think of the actors, how much they're getting paid, and they get to act out their dream on the screen. So I can't get into the story because I think about, oh goddamn, I didn't get that gig. How amazing would that be to get that gig? And I had to have a huge pay. That's what I'm thinking when I see a movie.
Really?
And TV shows. Not all the time. I can get lost in it sometimes, but sports especially, because sports, I remember playing as a kid. It's a blast to play football. They're all so much fun, and these guys have done it. And now I'm just supposed to sit up here in the fucking concrete bench cheering them on and be no. It makes me enraged that I can't play. I started comedy because I like watching comedy. I don't want to go watch comedy for 30 years. I
Now
want to do comedy.
Do you still watch comedy?
No. But I try not to because I want it. Now you get burnt out where you're like, I want the show. I want to look forward to the show. I don't want to be burnt out on it. I can't watch it all day. Otherwise, I'll dread it at 8 o'clock that night. I like for it to be special. The show time to be like, oh, I can't wait.
Right.
But yeah, like I don't know how to do it. If I watch surfing videos, I want to go surf. I want to learn how to surf. I can't just like, Kelly Slater has a great life. I'm never going to get to do that. I'm okay with that. Fuck that. I want to do that in my life.
I feel that way.
I want to
about-
mountain climb. I want to do these things. I'm not going to get to do them all, but I don't know how people just go cheer on this stranger and you're not in it, and that's okay. I don't get it. I don't get it. And this is probably
I like-
deep-rooted flaw in me. But
It's weird. They're not to like, you like to play sports, but you don't like to watch them, and you don't.
I
and you don't-
like watching them if I can play them. Like if you go, okay, look at what he did. That makes me better when I go out there and do it. But like when you go and watch football, you're never playing football. Whatever Travis Kelce did and all this stuff. Don't make a Taylor Swift joke. I'll leave this fucking studio.
I didn't bring
But
her
he's
up.
the only
You did.
player.
He's the only player.
But I'm like, you know what I mean?
I feel
playing
that
the
way.
game is fun, but I just don't know how to get like. That's great. Look at him killing it, and we'll just sit here.
I don't know, man. I like watching I like watching my team. I like.
Your team. I always thought you were smart.
What's your team?
I'm more of a baseball fan. I'm a Braves fan.
Oh,
So
Braves
I like
fan.
watching. I like watching the consistency of watching a season of that and watching the go on. I like if my. I'm a Falcons fan, but I'm not like a Falcon. You know what I mean? I don't like. Especially since they don't win, it's kind of hard to be. It's like being a Panthers fan.
Yeah.
Is that are you a fan of the Panthers?
I don't really. I mean, if I had to root for any team, it would be the Panthers, but I don't lose my mind.
But that's only because it's your city.
because because I grew up in New Jersey, so the Jets were the team that I used to root for, and then I just stopped caring. The reason I root for the Panthers now is because I heard once, and I don't know if it's still true, that they're the team that has the least following outside of their own market. So they're like the least popular team in the NFL, and that made me like them more. So that's why I root for the Panthers, because like they're the least popular NFL team in the country. So
That's an interesting thing. To
I
know.
don't
So
know.
it's just like
The Panthers too weren't here when I was a kid because I'm 48. So then it was like my dad was a Redskins fan, and all of the family followed like Reds. They picked that because that's next club, and I guess some were Cowboys fans from this area, from North Carolina.
Oh, right.
So then I was that as a kid, and then they came in late. Hornets came in first, but I was already like maybe 14 or 15 by the time, and then the Panthers were after it. So I was almost an adult. So there's no history to it.
So like the Super Bowl coming on, you don't really care. You have to figure out who the teams are. You're not watching through the season. To
No,
see
I
who
don't
the
watch through the
teams are.
season.
You don't watch ESPN like
No.
highlights.
Hey, let me tell you something. That if the Sports Center shit, I don't know if anyone's made this observation before. Those fucking studios they put them in anger me. Sports Center's like the Starship Enterprise.
Yeah.
I hate that there are 3 guys talking about football in a fucking warehouse with all those lights. It makes no sense why it's that shiny.
Paul, there's a lot of lights here too.
No, this is all right. This is subdued compared. This is almost a Charlie Rose interview compared to that. Like that they have all these graphics, and it shows you how stupid. I'm like, dude, what's wrong with a red curtain and a black curtain and turn the spotlights on and you talk about this guy might get drafted by the Falcons? Who gives a fuck? Why you gotta have?
Paul wants SportsCenter to be like an interrogation.
I want it to be simple. I can't believe they're doing it anyway.
Show.
I can't believe that pregame shows that people watch. It's a thing that's done.
I can't believe I'm
can't
a
believe
fan, and
you
I can't believe
talking about it.
I like watching highlight shows afterwards, but like I'm with you. I don't. Why are there 6 old guys talk? There's more guys in the pregame at the pregame desk than I care about on the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are there 6 of you talking about the game coming up?
I mean, they get paid to do it, so I sort of get it. But those things give me almost borderline palpitations, where I hear like 3 or 4 people like on a radio program, when someone turns on sports radio, and they're just fired up talking about, well, he might go there next year. I'm like, you don't fucking know this guy. He's not a member of your family. This is inconsequential to anyone's
He's
life.
not your family.
Who gives a shit if he gets traded? Who gives a fuck?
What
Unless
are you
that's your
talking
brother.
about? You're a fan of the team and of the sport.
I mean, that's too. Why?
See, I gotta be on that side too, because I was just
Which
like,
side? My side? Or
No,
his side?
his side on that particular aspect.
I thought
Because I don't
all
care.
alone.
Like, I'll watch the games, but I don't care what happens after that. Like, I'll watch the games, but I really do not care what the coaching situation is or the trade situation. I'll watch on Sunday, and admittedly, I only really watch football because I play fantasy football, so I got money on it.
Right.
So, but otherwise, I wouldn't care.
I don't know. I'm all for that, but yeah, I didn't get the gambling sort of thing. It freaked me out.
That was me. Like when I would do casino gigs, I would have to be like, oh, I'm gonna lose my whole fucking paycheck, and I get paid like $50,000.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
right.
Like, I'm
Theater
losing
gigs.
$50,000.
You put that all on one thing, or do you lose it at like playing different games?
I would play just the slot machines because it's just the easiest shit. You just press a button. But every now and again, I would play blackjack, and then Tony Boswell. You know Tony.
I do know
right?
Tony. I don't.
Well, it doesn't matter if you do or not. But I mean, we were doing casinos, and he's the first one that put me on a poker table because I was always intimidated. But he was like, I'll show you the ropes.
Love poker.
And I my first hand, if anybody that knows poker, I hit pocket aces, like rockets, first hand sitting on the table, double. So I went all in and doubled up, and sure enough, like I was hooked after that. I was like, oh, this is easy.
great.
If this is the way it always works, but of course it doesn't.
That's like catching a fish your first.
Yeah,
real
exactly.
thing.
Like I caught the mother load, and then after that I was hooked.
Did you win the first time you gambled?
Me? No, hell no.
I can never think. They say that like I love poker too, but they like the great poker players like you can't think about the money. You can think about the game or whatever.
Right.
And I can't get the money out of my head. I've been broke too many times in my life, and I've also lost some money gambling in my drinking days. I blew $800 one time in maybe 30 minutes, and I needed that $800. I needed every penny of it, and it still stings.
Yeah,
And,
even if I
keep
lose
that.
I remember playing in Vegas and I lose like 150. Even if it's 150
Yeah,
bucks, I'm like,
bucks,
it's a shirt.
Yeah, or it's your
It's an
cell phone
outfit.
bill.
It's an outfit. Like, you know what I mean?
I do it in food. I'm like,
pair of
man, that's a
shoes.
lot of quarter
Yeah.
pounders.
If I lose $150, that's like 300 shirts. at
That's
the
what I
Goodwill
meant.
store.
I don't know. I meant like an outfit. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's like a pair of shoes, like for a woman's pair of shoes.
That was
Wear
another.
women's shoes.
Do you know? I was telling
1,000
Paul
fedoras.
about. You heard Gary Mule Deer?
I know that name too.
See, that's the same thing that he said. And
Know the name.
there's a documentary now out. It's a good one. I recommend it. But yeah, it's this guy he was roommates with Steve Martin back in the day. That's how long ago he's been around. And he was at the Comedy Store when it first started. But that was his addiction, or one of his addictions was Keno. And like people would talk about. I mean, it might have been Letterman. It was like this guy's like so crazy and on cocaine and shit, and I can't think of a more boring game to be addicted to than Keno.
It's just the lottery every 5 minutes. What do you mean?
Yeah.
That's exactly, and apparently that's what he was addicted to playing in Vegas, was just Keno, just sitting there watching numbers come up on a screen.
Yeah, well, that's what you're doing in a slot machine. That's what you're doing.
Basically, I guess, but at least a slot machine makes noises.
Yeah,
I
it's,
saw a
lights.
dude.
if I'm
It
up
has
$500, that's not enough. You know what I mean? It's like that's what the problem with me is. Like
More.
like you're saying, you have to not pay attention to the money and just
Keep
play,
going.
keep the game, get your money out, whatever. But to me, it's like I'm going for the life-changing money.
Jackpot.
or,
Yeah.
You know, so
I saw a gambling addiction like one time. A comic, I won't say his name. In Vegas, we were doing this gig 20 years ago, and he flew in early, landed. His room wasn't ready at the hotel, and he took his luggage right to like a video poker machine at 11 in the morning, and he was there 12 hours later.
Wow.
Like they came with his room key 2 hours later, like, your room's ready. And he sat there. And we tried to get him off that machine, and it was like a pit bull, like trying to take its food away. Dude, he was pissed. He was serious. I'm like, I've never seen anything like that.
Dude, if I'm ever like, if I win, this will change my life. It's just like, man, I shouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
I
know.
I try
I never
to
could
be
get in the
good
game.
about like, hey, I'm ahead, get out. Like if I can get ahead,
Yeah.
I think like I'm disciplined enough that I'm like, all right, I just won $50. Okay, good. But the thing is like, if I start losing, then I just keep, all right, I need to recover what I lost. And then that's when it fucking doubles.
There was a time I went to Vegas one time to my drinking days where Joel at the Comedy Zone goes, before you place any bets, just for me, and we'll split it if it hits, put $5 on 00 on roulette. And a couple days into Vegas, because I was just getting hammered. And I walked past, I'm like, oh, I got to put to the other guy, I got to put this down for Joel. And I put it down, it hit. And it pays 35 to 1, I think. It's $175 off $5
Nice.
or some shit. Which is, I was like, holy shit. And like, give me my money. And the guy's like, no. And there's a couple there, like, you're good luck. Go again. And I took most of it. I took 40 and put it on like black, and it hit. I'm like, give me my money. And they're like, you stay, you're good luck. And I put on red and it lost. But I walked with most of it. But it was like 2 days into my trip. So Joel's like, all right, where's that money? I'm like, dude, that's fucking gone. Dude. That was a Wednesday. I stayed there for 5 more days. I mean, it was gone. I didn't gamble it. I just drank it. And it didn't come home.
here's your $5.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, Serena had that. We went the first time we went to Vegas. Somebody gave her money at the bar she worked at. It was like, put this on blah 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 or whatever, and it hit. And she brought him his money, and I'm like, you.
It's crazy.
You could have told him he lost, just like everybody else.
I've heard of stories of comics winning 30 grand and all this stuff. These legendary stories. I'm like, all right.
Mostly they lost. We know a
Yeah.
comic too. Over you might not know. I don't want to say his name, but he was gambling, and then he realized, oh, the house wins on this, so he flipped, and he was doing it as on the bookie end for comics.
Oh,
right.
really?
So he was making money off of comics that gambled a lot and bet on games and stuff like that. And then
That's smart.
I was with a comic one time who was just like,
such a smart move.
I won't say his name either. But he was like,
why don't you just call this podcast that we won't say
say their
his
name. I can't
podcast?
say it because I want to say the name, and then you know it. But and then he was like, I don't like gambling alone. And I was drinking, and I didn't really care. And I like, oh, I've already gambled. I'm not putting any more money in this machine. I can't. He's like, here's $50. You play that machine, I'll play this one. It's not fun to gamble alone. And I lose his $50 in 5 minutes. I'm like, dude, I can't do this now. I feel guilty.
Yeah.
And then he's like, at the time, he's like, I got to go to the ATM. He lose like hundreds of dollars on the slot. And the time I lost 50. And then he's like, I'm going to the ATM. I'm like, I don't know. Even I was hammered, but I'm like, dude, I don't know. Then he had been gambling so much that his mother had access to his bank account. She could see what he was doing. I mean, he's like 40. And then he come back and lose another few $100. He's like, my mom's going to. I'm like, dude, this is the saddest shit. And then he would just tell me, I'm like, well, all right, let's leave and go to bed, whatever. We go to bed. And he's like, 2 nights later, he's like, I went back during the day and lost more. I mean, it was thousands of dollars,
How do you
dude.
not
and it just makes
learn?
me sick.
How do you not learn? Yeah, I know a guy too. He did stop for
Can you say his name?
15 years. This guy knew Eric I. Right?
Okay, there we go.
I know
Finally.
Eric.
Yeah,
Oh, dude.
Eric Idle.
Yeah.
Yes,
And-
Monty Python.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's funny, man. He had some really good jokes that like one-liner jokes that some of them are really solid.
Yeah.
But he quit gambling. I remember he wouldn't come to Atlantic City to even watch a show that I was doing, and he was like, I can't be there.
Can't be around. Well, good for him that he
And-
knows that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and then
you have to.
it's just a reminder because then it's like 12 years later, he's, throwing away all of his money again. Just like boom, 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 and then he's got to get back to work and start over again. From
I think
zero,
that sportsbook
know?
betting though might be like even more dangerous because you can fool yourself into thinking that you know what you're doing. Like, oh no, I got the inside scoop.
Yeah.
This guy is injured and that person is like, and so you think like, I mean, and I guess there is something to that, but still, it's still gambling. It's still,
yeah,
you know
still
what I mean?
chance.
Exactly. So yeah, that's
The
why
house
I don't
went-
want to touch
My
it.
grandmother used to run numbers. She got busted by the FBI actually.
What?
Yeah, on Long Island. It's a story that my mom tells of like helicopter. She like comes home and there's FBI agents all over the house.
Wow.
Seems like
They
a
need a
overkill.
helicopter to get grandma.
It's
Yeah.
like
Wow.
well, the helicopter.
Well, she had a
the
machine gun.
helicopter might have
Goodfellas?
been a picture. Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I was thinking.
You're right. I need to look into the story.
Well,
a little
then
bit.
she
Fast
got
you
a-
think she can run? I mean, she's
Well,
no,
maybe-
she had a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
gonna swim into the Long Island Sound. Yeah, take off.
She hasn't been seen since.
Yeah, why? I remember you telling me that story, but now that I'm thinking, why the helicopter?
Yeah, I'll call my mom tonight and ask her. But
That might have been
maybe the
embellished.
that
Yeah.
might be some Yeah, but she was you know,
There
my
might
mom
have been
walked
one
out with
nearby
like
for something else.
a lot of the numbers like in the trash as she walked by them and stuff and threw it away, and so they weren't really being as thorough as they probably needed to be. But
Yeah, she was definitely doing it though,
but
right?
she was definitely running numbers, and she was embarrassed by when they
She go to
put it-
prison, or is it just sort of a slap on the stop that?
I feel like if you bring a helicopter out, you go to
I
jail.
think she
Ah,
went
yeah,
to
I feel like
think
that's
she went
federal
to-
time.
I
Yeah.
think she went to jail, but I don't think there was.
It's a good point. When a helicopter's involved, it's,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
gonna
so
be a
we're
slap on
not
the
spending
wrist.
money on sending there up. You feel like gassing that fucker up.
You're right. This whole story sounds like bullshit. Now.
Yeah.
I
it
had
does,
a
right, it
friend one
does.
time who was dating this guy that I don't know the story, but he was evidently left while he was on
the worst
parole or
storyteller.
something, and he was in another. He was in another
got an even worse
state,
story.
and then she's like, "It's not a big deal. The marshals got him, and they're driving him back to whatever state to his court date." She's like, "It's not a big deal." I'm like, "Anytime the marshals get in a car to drive you across multiple states to your court," I'm like, "This is done.
Yeah.
He's done."
Yeah.
And then later she's like, "Just admit it. It's not a fucking misdemeanor. It's not
Yeah.
public intox. You don't drive across multiple the U.S. Marshal Service." She's like, "It's not a big deal." I'm like, "It is. It's a real big deal. Your relationship is over."
You gotta feel pretty good as a person though. Like it's like, hey, they had to send 3 states, marshals,
Yeah, you gotta feel like you did some serious
helicopters
shit.
came to
Yeah.
get me. That's a story for the ages. Though.
Yeah.
You're gonna go out. I mean,
They
I
took
guess-
some guy away from his family at night to come get me, dude.
Yeah, to drive across
Fucking
5 states,
helicopter.
20 hours. And I think it was like Colorado to Washington State. It wasn't neighboring state. You know what I mean? It was like, this
How'd
is
you
an
know
8.
this?
Oh,
How'd you know
wow.
this girl?
Oh, she's a friend. She's a comic.
Oh,
Can't
okay.
say
Can you say her name?
I
say her
can't say her
name?
name. Can't say her name. I'm not saying anyone's name on this podcast.
That's why I never introduce people on this show. I don't
Yeah.
even say, "Hey."
You know,
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
that's
my
right.
name
When are we
plugged.
starting the podcast? By the way, or whatever this is.
First of all, I want to thank. We have a show that I want to thank Carlos and Paul for coming in. Right, both great comics.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Oh my
Thank you
God.
for having us.
So we're gonna start this podcast and talk about life.
Can we
That's
talk
great.
about our
Thank you for having
projects? The projects that we have coming
Yeah,
up.
yeah. What do you
That's
got?
it.
What do you got? You
Nothing.
You also have a comedy show in Charlotte.
Oh, I do have a comedy. I started with I started about like September of last year, and so this will be our like 5th or 6th show, and I'm bringing a couple of Greensboro guys
Yeah.
for you're doing it.
Yep. Me,
Yeah.
Cha-Cha, and Hoover.
And yeah, they're
I'll
all
never say
they're doing it in 2 weeks. I don't know when is this dropping. That means when it's airing.
Yeah, we don't. It's Code Red.
It's Code Red Comedy, and basically the whole concept of the whole show. Paul did it. Well, Paul closed it.
Isn't that a Mountain Dew drink
was
or
fun.
something?
It was, but it's also a term for. Here's the whole way it started. It's like the show. The whole concept of the show is that we put stand-ups. It's a competition, and they have to deal with some sort of adversity. But I want to keep the adversity like realistic. All
Is
right?
it a Few Good Men reference?
See, people say that too. No,
Did
it's
you
not.
initiate the
It's
Code
not.
Red? You're goddamn
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody dropped that reference. I didn't know what they were talking about. I was like, oh yeah, that is a Few Good Men. But the whole concept, we called it red flag comedy because it's like, oh, it's a red flag, like something's gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
And then I thought it'd been vetted, but apparently not. There's an outfit in Indianapolis that calls themselves Red Flag Comedy. So then we had to change it to Code Red Comedy. That's the whole genesis of that. But the whole concept is that the comics have to go up, and most of them have to deal with some kind of adversity while they're on stage. But I want to keep it realistic because there's been shows, and actually we had, you guys know Andy Sanford from Atlanta.
Yeah.
We had him close in November, and he was like, "Oh, so this is like what's that called? Was it New York? The 7 Levels of Hell? You remember that show or something? It was something.
See
like,
You in Hell?
Was it See You? I don't know what it was, but it was something like they put comics through like
See You in Hell, I think. I did that one in New York.
did you have to do like some crazy shit interrupting your set or something like that?
Sometimes they would do like a prisoner of war thing. They taped you blindfold.
Okay, you see that? You know what I mean?
And then I had one dressed like it had to be like a stripper. They put a shirt on you. You could sort of drop your pants and then dance when they hit the music.
Okay, so see, like, first of all,
That was a show you did?
Yeah.
I didn't know you did that show, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was fun. The guys that ran it were super fun.
I could not have guessed that those would be the 2 words that came out of your mouth.
What?
It was fun. The 3 words.
It was fun. I love the guys that were doing it. Yeah. And
who were doing it?
Doug Smith, and then
Don't mention their names.
Oh yeah, you can't say. You can't say. Good Lord. All right, you're off the podcast.
sorry. No, I mean this is like 10 years ago in New York, and they did it. They were good.
But
great at hosting.
Andy told me about that, and I was like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that from when I was living in New York City. But the thing is, like, first of all, I don't want to copy somebody else's show. But the second thing is, like, that's outrageous. Like that, like having to dress up like a stripper and do like arm wrestle somebody is not something that'll usually happen at a comedy show.
Right.
So the shit that happens at my show is shit that actually happens at a show. Like the mic, there's a kind of technical difficulty, or there's a heckler in the audience, or that. So I like to try to keep them like realistic, because somebody actually.
How many interruptions do you have a per show?
There's 7 comics, six per. So one comic will not have an interruption. And so it'll be like 6 of the 7 will have something happen, and it does it, and it we try to change it, but the basis of it is like, let's at least try to keep this realistic.
So it's like phone rings, argument at a table.
Exactly.
It's not like a man in a chicken suit or anything.
Like,
It's
exactly.
It's not like a man in a chicken
exactly.
suit.
It's not like we're gonna drop a bucket of blood on you because
Carlos is drunk in the back, won't shut the fuck up.
Oh,
That's a common thing. All the comics get that one.
I'm just
Somebody comes bursting through the door. Everybody down while it's on the table, or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. We got an active shooter in the audience. No, we're trying to keep
That's
them
a
real.
funny one.
Yeah. Well, hey, are you available in a couple of weeks, Paul? We need an active shooter to scare the comics.
I like that one.
But fireworks in the town over or something.
Oh yeah.
But something like, because somebody was like, I was talking to somebody about my show, and they were like, "Oh, so you just want to torture the comics?" I was like, "No. I'm not trying to torture I'm not trying to humiliate the comics. I try to treat it more like it's like a training ground. It's almost like the shit that happens when you get on the road. That, I mean, a perfect world, it wouldn't."
Right.
But this is the shit that does happen. So we're actually kind of giving you like a friendly environment.
What'd you do to him?
Well, he was the headliner, so he didn't get anything. What we did to him is that we didn't have a turnout for that show, so he had to perform for 4 people.
Sorry, it was still fun.
No, it was
Made
good.
the best of it.
That
Try to be
is
a pro.
exactly what happens on the road.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
right.
right.
That's the number one thing we
That's
do at my
accurate.
show. There's gonna be nobody's gonna be there, so perform for an empty audience.
It does feel like all these years over, like doing one-nighters and shit, like how people, it almost seems like they've gone out of their way to ruin a show, like set up a show, like how easy it would be to set it up and how fucked up it is
Yeah.
most of the time. It's incredible.
Right.
It's sort of amazing that you're like, oh, we don't have stage or sound or lights.
There's
It's
a
incredible that you didn't think to do any of that.
Yes.
there's
pretty amazing.
There's a producer here, and I won't mention his name, but that books shows in the area, in the Charlotte area, where they're just shit shows, and he's almost embraced it. Like, oh yeah, this is my brand. It's like the shit shows, and it was like, it's almost like he doesn't even try to make the show good. It's just like, nah, it's my show, and you know how it is. It's just fucking gonna be.
Is there an
Roadhouse.
audience that's starting to develop for it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because it's at different places. It's like at different bars, but it's just like, oh, these are all my shows, and you know they're gonna be rowdy. People are gonna be yelling stuff out. I was like, that's not the way it's
That
supposed
doesn't
to
sound
be.
fun.
No.
Jenny's doing some. I mean, I'm sure you guys have been in New York, so you've seen shows and stuff like this all over. Jenny's doing stuff around here that I think is really cool. They do a thing where it's like part improv, part stand-up, where like a stand-up goes up and does a 9 to 10 minute set. I don't even know if it's that long. And
It's
then
typically 5, yeah.
okay, like let's say 5 to 7 minute set,
Yeah.
right? And they're 3 or 4 improvers are standing on the side watching him do it, just like the crowd is. And then that comic leaves, and then the improvers go up and start improving around basically the bits that he just wrote.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah.
And then it goes
It
to
is
the
really cool.
And then it goes to the next bit. It's like it's like I never seen that, and it's kind of cool. Like the way the subject matter continues on in a different way. You know.
I haven't seen that, but there was a thing, like it was like Ass Cat or something like that. The old UCB people did, where it was like, it wasn't like a stand-up, but it would just have like a person tell a story, and then the improvers would like try to like build off of the story.
Okay.
You
I
know
did
what I'm
it.
talking about?
I think
Did you did that?
Was it like
No.
a story time thing? I've been to one show where it was like a story mic. Or
I did some
whatever,
of-
and then like
I just remember like there's a document. I mean, I don't know if it's still streaming anywhere, but
Yeah.
I saw it a long time ago where it was like I think it was the UCB people, and it was like so a bunch of improv people. They have some famous person tell a story, and then they try to build off
Yeah,
an
that's a good
improv.
idea.
Yeah,
What
I
are
did, like-
some of the other shows she's doing?
she does one called Wits, where you go up and do like you go up and do 5 minutes. And then you go up and take suggestions from a bucket, and then you gotta kind of riff off the suggestions.
did.
That's the one I really like, the Wits one, because I like trying to make stuff out of that, like the riffing like that, because it can be hard, and then sometimes you get something out of it. It's like, oh, that was cool.
I did it one time in like a couple in New York that were fun, that were terrifying to do. Of like one was like with Vatterott, Nick Vatterott. They'd pair you up with another comic. They just pick the other comic you were going to be with. It was a good lineup of comics. And then it was like just 15. You all have 15 minutes. You both have to go on stage at the same time. Figure it out. Make it funny for 15. Cover 15. And we tried to think about it the day before, trying to get clever, and we didn't know anything until we got there, like 30 minutes before. And we're like, dude, what the fuck are we doing? And he's like, what do you do? What are you talking? I'm like, I'm sort of OCD. He's like, I'm OCD. He's like, do your OCD bits. I'll tag them. So it was almost like that. Do your bit. I'll improv off of it. And he's so great that it was a blast, but it was terrifying. And he'd sort of lead me back into my bit somehow, and then I would sort of, and then he would riff off of it and tag him. And then I did another one at the Stand a long time ago that was that. Like
That's
the
an
audience just
interesting-
yells at you. They just yell a topic. Hillary
Yeah.
Clinton. And then you just go. And that was.
How do
even
you
more
guys feel about it? Because you guys have been doing it longer than I have, and even at where I'm at, I wouldn't want to do my show. Like if somebody hit me up about like, hey, I do this show, and then you're gonna get like interrupted during your show. I was like, I deal with enough adversity. I don't want to do that show.
I
Like,
don't.
would you want to do that show? 'Cause-
No.
Okay, would you want to do the show I run the way I described it, Tom? I would.
My ego is like I want to try to figure out how to be the funniest dude in every situation.
So you
which-
would like look at it as a
I'm
challenge
used to
do it?
failure.
I may still do it though. I mean, I wouldn't want to. I
But
dread
see,
it.
here's the thing: is like I can see people doing it. Like you did, you did just describe 2 shows in New York City where you did that shit, and I was like, okay, I get it in New York City. I mean, you get it like you try to get any show that you can, but where you're gonna go to Charlotte to do a show where you're gonna get interrupted, it was like, well, I could go to fucking Rutherford Town and get heckled.
I
if
think I
really
would
wanted
know
to.
it was coming, and I would just sort of react to whatever happened, and then go back to telling my jokes.
But would you want to? But I mean.
don't
I know
care.
you can do it. I know
don't
you
care.
can. I know both of you can. But would you want to?
I don't know
do
if
a
I
show
want. I
like
wouldn't
that?
want to, but I don't
That's
like
the
shying
thing.
away from anything I'm scared of.
Okay, so I just need to challenge you and just call you a pussy.
Yeah,
if you
but I
don't
would
do it.
dread it. Yeah, I would dread it the fucking whole time.
'Cause
I
I
hate
would-
the idea of doing it. Yeah, for sure.
I honestly, there's another show in Charlotte actually. It's called Truth or Dare. Whereas like the comic goes up, and at some point after their set, they have to do a Truth or Dare thing, and if they choose Dare, then they might have to like run a conga line or some shit like that. And the booker that books it, she hit me up about it, and I was like, thank you for hitting me up about it. I appreciate it, but it's just not in my bag. Like I don't want to like have to lead a conga line after my stand up. I just want to do my stand up. So like I turned it down, and I'm like gracefully. I didn't want. I appreciate your asking, but I'm. That's what my question is. Like, how do you guys feel about gimmicky shows?
You know what? It's like gimmicky. Those things I would be more apt to do. You know what sounded miserable more than that during COVID? Like in New York, people were like, we're going to do a show in a field. I'm like, I'm going to fucking kill myself. Dude, let's just stand in the corner of this.
Yeah, or
We're
Zoom
doing it on the
shows?
train. I'm like, I'd rather you throw shoes at me than fucking in
I
a real
remember
club.
I remember you refused to do Zoom comedy or comedy.
I didn't want to do it. I mean, I was
Well,
like
Paul
in a
still
bad
refuses
headspace.
to do comedy, but Zoom comedy especially.
I did. No, God. I did one Zoom game show. It was terrible during COVID. But then I refused to do like parking lot shows where they honk the horns. And I'm like, get the fuck. I'm almost ready to quit comedy what's in the club. Now this is just going to send me over the edge. I was fed up. So it was the smartest thing I did. I don't think I'd be in comedy today if I'd done them.
Did you
'Cause
do
I was at
those,
the point
Tom?
of like being so
Did I
pissed.
what?
Did you do Zoom shows?
You were doing a lot of stuff because I thought you were driving to places that had it.
I did a
Like
couple
Raleigh.
Zoom. I did a couple Zoom things, but yes.
Those
And then
drive-in ones seem pretty cool, actually. Some
I
of those
didn't do a
drive-in
Jenny
ones.
drive-in. We did a
Minus the honking.
yeah.
The
We had a
honking and
James had a Hodge got a roof show out in Chapel Hill, and we did that a couple times. And then Jenny here at Idiot Box was doing open mics in her club.
She did them out at the bar on the patio.
On the bar and in the club after a while we were doing
Yeah, I
stuff.
came up and did
but
one.
after and it was just us, like there'd be 6 of us all spread out, So I was doing that. Like,
But you didn't do like Zoom on the computer.
I did a couple, but I didn't like. I actually had a corporate gig that was a Zoom that I did, and that was just me talking, and I literally couldn't hear.
How much did it pay?
It was like $800.
It's not enough.
I would do it for $800.
I mean, I probably would have too, but
Okay, well,
no one offered me that.
Yeah,
but
and
at the time,
I would do it
now.
for $800. I wouldn't do it for free though.
But then I did like something for Hofstetter and Bowers. I don't know. There might have been like $25, something. It was something like that.
Okay,
But
that would
I quickly was like, okay, I'm not doing this because it was just in and out and blah blah blah, and I couldn't feed the energy. I did consider just doing my act like in front of a brick wall I have on my porch and just doing it like that. Like I was
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know how far. To me, it was like, if you love football, like, we're going to play on the highway. You're like, well, I'm not playing on the fucking highway. Let me know when we go back to the field. You're like, you don't love football enough to play in the intersection.
like, I won't even watch it if I'm not playing. So I love the game. Don't talk to me about loving the game. Right?
Yeah.
I don't like
That's a good analogy. I like that analogy, right? So, but I just wanted to do comedy. I tried to do some stuff like with Bevins. We did some of the.
Oh, you did a podcast?
So we did like a little split screen.
That was great.
FaceTime. Yeah. So those were fun, but like, you know.
Well, I guess for you guys, I mean, like when you just said, oh, you don't love comedy. Well, I guess comedy is the actual experience, being in front of actual people, and that, like, doing it like that. It's like, oh, you don't love training, but it's like, getting the actual people and the reactions and actual, that's the comedy.
Yeah, I don't mean that I have in some egotistical way. It's like if I ask, Charlotte, I want to do some spots to try to work on new stuff. I ask Carla, I'm like, what are the shows? Because otherwise, I'm like,
what you said is, who can I bump?
Who can I bump? Yeah, that's it. Really pulling rank. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And then, but I'm like, I want to get a read on a joke. I want to be able to know that this is funny or not. I don't want to just say it out loud into a PA system.
Right.
Practice it, saying it. I want to see if I can like get a laugh.
Well, that's
I want to be productive. I want like a chance to be productive. And I guess you could standing in a park in New York. I mean, there are people sitting there maybe that are starved for entertainment.
There was people that were going to places to go see, like, you know, like what Chappelle did was building that thing around there. I mean, it is Chappelle, so but people, they weren't coming out to see our shows on the patio and stuff like that. It was just kind of us talking to each other. So it was like,
I respect that. Yeah,
I just needed like.
I think that's the formula though. Is like become super famous, super rich, buy a ranch in Ohio, and then when there's a pandemic, do a show there. I think really that is the model that we should all.
Yeah,
I love it.
What's stopping you from doing that?
I know, right?
I think
laziness, really, to be honest with you.
But I was burnt out at that time, so I think that was part of it. It was just a me thing where I'm like, weird headspace. I'm glad I took that year off though.
Yeah, same here. It did something for me in comedy. Was like, oh, okay. Like I was happy to be off in a weird way.
I was too.
I thought I'd be miserable, and it was like 3 months later, I'm like, I'm still cool with not doing this. And then doing the open mics and blah blah blah, and then it was like, all right, let's go back. And then I have a whole different. I don't know if it's because of that, but right now I feel like I'm having more fun at comedy than I ever had.
I don't know if I missed the show. I was just burnt out. I was in New York, so it was burnout on. When it happened, I was relieved that I didn't have to go. The FaceTime bullshit or hanging out, the strategic loitering.
Why do you hate people so much? Let's get to that.
Oh my God, have you met people?
You know,
strategic loitering.
that's what it is. That's what it is. It's like stand outside that club until they like get fed up seeing you and they put you on. That's the worst part of this business.
I refused to do that when I was in New York. Like, it was like, you need to come here and hang out, and I'm like, I'm not. Okay, I'm here hanging. If I'm going to be here, I'll watch the show. What do you mean hang out?
Yeah, I don't know. I never got it.
Stand here awkwardly and nobody.
We
never
got it.
No,
Carlos and I talk. I mean, but
never,
it does pay off for people that do it. And then I'm like, I hate it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But it's just stand there until it's they get sick of seeing you.
I would do like we were talking. You mentioned Vatterott earlier. Vatterott had Nick Vatterott, and you know Nick Vatterott. He's a great comic. Anyway. Doesn't matter. He had a podcast. And I used to go to the Creek and the Cave and just stay there till not even till they closed, after they closed. And then so I'm hanging out there with another comic, and he got booked to do his podcast, and he needed another person. So just because I was hanging out, I was like, oh, hey, how about my buddy Carlos does the podcast? And it's like, so we ended up doing that podcast.
Dude, you
just
were
because I was
everywhere.
Well,
for like 5 years.
For a while I was. Not anymore,
everywhere.
man. Not anymore, man. But I mean, that same shit like in Atlanta, like at the Punchline, the old Punchline. I would go there. They had the Wednesday night open mics, and so I would go there. And then I would just hang out at the bar because I knew the staff, and I would just hang out. And then it would be like, after they closed down, Marcy's talking to Jamie, and they're like, "Hey, who's emceeing this weekend?" And they'd be like, "I don't think we have anybody." And they're like, "Carlos, you want to MC?" And like, that's how I got that gig. Just because I would happen to be the guy sitting there. Physically there, hanging out. I mean, and
strategic loitering.
Strategic loitering. But the thing is, like, it's a lot cheaper when you know the staff and they're giving you
It's a lot more enjoyable in other cities than it is in New York.
Yeah, in New York City, man, it's like you're just really sitting there with a bunch of other people that are also strategically
that are trying. There's a different
loitering.
energy to it than it is in North Carolina or Atlanta, I think. New York, there's more pressure. There's more people. You get lost in the shuffle. And people have their guard up a little more, and it's just more of a feeding frenzy. So it doesn't feel like quite as hangout. Like there's comics, that I knew in New York for 10 years, and you don't really get to know them until you work with them on a road gig. Because they're rushing spot to spot, and so now you get to like, after the show you get to breathe, and you're not running over there. I got to go there, I got to go there. And so, that
reminds me, you just opened for Mark Norman, right?
Yeah, he's so great.
Tell me about this. Like, what you're just sitting around and you get a call from Mark, or do you know him? Are you friends with him, or what's the story? How does this unfold?
I knew him from New York. We did shows and stuff, but I hadn't seen him since I left or talked to him. And then, just one of the Comedy Zone guys was like, "Oh, are you here Saturday?" And I'm like, "Just on a Monday." And then I'm like, "Yeah, I'm home." He's like, "I want to submit you for a thing." I'm like, "Okay, I appreciate it." The next day, they're like, "All right, yeah, Norman wants you to open." I didn't know what it was. I guess they submitted a group of comics, and I got it. So, which I was super happy. Then it's like he packed out a theater. It was awesome. His crowd's awesome. He's great. I mean, he's like one of those dudes that's like, he's a workhorse. Everyone says it, and it's paying off.
Right.
He's great. And I watched him. That's the first time I got to see him do like an hour. And he's so deep in material and like from every angle, whether it's someone in the crowd. I mean, he's got jokes and jokes and jokes and jokes.
I ended up going to that show, just attending the show, and I hadn't, like, I knew of Norman, and I'd see him around when I was living in New York City too, but I'd never seen him do a full set. That's the first time, and I'm like, God damn, man! Like all these jokes, like we're talking about like writing jokes.
It's jokes,
and the week before that, was it the week before?
No fat on the joke, short joke. Bits. I mean, nothing, no extra words, just joke.
And I think the week before that is when Attell was at the Comedy Zone, and I got to do a guest spot at that. It was fucking amazing. And then you see Attell, and it's again like just fucking joke, and I'm like, this is just like, this is what I'm like in heaven right now.
Yeah.
Like Attell obviously is the master.
It's unreal. He's one of the first comics I worked with that I was just like, the longer the week went on, the more respect I got for him. It was just like I watching show after show. Like in the beginning, I was joking with him and giving him crap and blah blah blah. I was like, and then by the end of the week, I was so humbled by watching him that I had a hard time even talking to him.
No, the first time
he was so like, I'd never seen anything like that many punchlines and that much.
When was that?
It's like people like that. It's like surely he'll run out soon, and then they just keep going.
I mean, it was like 2000. Like
okay, so okay. See, that makes sense to me because when the first time I worked with Attell was like 20. It was at the Punchline actually, and it was probably like 2011, 2012. Matt Davis actually the feature, but by that point I was already like a huge fan. So what you described at the end of that weekend, that was me going into that weekend. I'm like, holy shit, Dave Attell. Like, this motherfucker is like an idol to me.
It was before Insomniac, but I still knew who he was. You know what I mean? Yeah. But still.
Because but it's still fucking. And so, but I went into it going into like, oh my God, I'm working with Dave Attell. And so I'm emceeing and I'm just like, don't bother Dave Attell. Don't bother. Like, don't talk to him. Just don't stay out of their way because it's like, this guy's amazing. And I remember Matt, our buddy Matt, you know Matt Davis too, right?
Yeah.
He was like, at one point, just me and him talking. I was like, hey, Attell's like, does Carlos have a problem with me or something? Like, he doesn't want to talk to me. I'm like, no, I just want to, like, I don't want to get in his way. I don't want him to piss him off or whatever. But yeah, he's just fucking amazing. So anyway, the point is, like, the week before Norman, Attell was in town, and I went to see him. I stayed for 2 shows. And then I saw Norman. I was like, "Oh yeah, this is like this is what I love. I love seeing people that are just like fucking jokes and just fucking great writers."
That was the most time I got to spend with Norman. That's the case in point. Like, I saw him, but he ran literally, physically, would run spot to spot in New York. Like, he had the most spots and would run. I mean, you see him run out of a bar, physically run to make another spot, sprint, and you just see flashes of Norman.
I love
it. He was everywhere, all over the city, and now he did the show. We had like a 7 o'clock show in that theater. It was over by 8:30. I even asked him because we got a few minutes to talk after the show for like 30 minutes. It's the most we've talked since I met him in 2011. Was that 30 minutes? And then I was just like, are you just what are you antsy now? Because there's nothing. You're in Charlotte. Show's over. Now what? And he's like, sort of, like he wants the next spot. So he's great, man. He's worked. He's talented. It's all paying off.
And it's jokes. I mean, it's not always easy to make it writing. It's weird to say that, but just as a joke writer,
right?
And he's living the dream too, because he's doing a theater. He did Lexington, Kentucky, the Friday. Flew to Charlotte, did another packed theater Saturday. He did San Antonio and something else this past weekend. So I'm like, oh, you do a city Friday and a city Saturday theaters, and then New York Sunday through Thursday. He's like, yeah. I'm like, how long do the theaters? He's like, all year.
That's amazing.
All of it.
That's
Keep
great.
it going. It's sort of like, I'm like, man, I love it. That's the dream. Like just stand up, just pure stand up, packing theaters, making all kinds of money, writing new jokes, and then go back and do your spots, and then go back. And
there's a personal thing, but there's what I appreciate also about Norman is that he still drinks. Yeah. Everybody else is fucking sober, and then he still like I was like
he's stamina
because we hung out.
Sounds like he's taking some shots over at you, Hoop, right there.
Yeah, it does.
Well, yes,
he does.
Yeah. I mean, this is like indirectly. Usually, it's just more direct than that. But yeah.
Yeah.
But we hung out that night after the show at this little bar in Charlotte, and he was drinking. I was like, oh wow, a comic that still drinks.
Yes,
a fucking unicorn, a successful comic that still drinks. There's plenty unsuccessful comics that still drink.
I think a lot of them are still drinking. You know what I mean? Bert's drinking a lot. That whole gang, and Mark's a part of that group.
But Mark and Bert, well, I mean, I guess I can't really say about.
I'm assuming Shane Gillis is drinking.
Yeah, I really don't know. That was another thing. When we were hanging out last week, I was like, somebody texted me, like, hey, you know Shane Gillis is about to host SNL, and I was like, oh, this is news. I'm going to bring this up. And so I went to the table where we were sitting, Norman and some other local comics and Paul, but Paul was yapping because you can't fucking shut him up. So I was like, oh, let me wait till Paul stops talking, and I'm going to be like, you guys are not going to believe who's hosting SNL next week. And then fucking Paul stops yapping, and then Mark Norman just turns his fucking smartphone around. I was like, hey, look at this. And he's like, fuck, it was the fucking a sign with the post-its that says Shane Gillis is hosting SNL.
Do you remember what you were talking about?
He does.
I don't know.
He just,
my dad leaving or something. I don't know.
Mites.
Yeah. Carlos's stupid hats.
Probably depressing us all about the scurvy.
Yeah.
I don't know about this bar, but it's scurvy.
Complaining about the temperature of the bar or something like that.
So how does your OCD work on ships?
Which part?
Like the whole thing, like getting in there to the room that the crew room that you stay in. I feel like it feels a little prison-y. You know what I mean? Like,
I have to be more disciplined on there to keep my sanity. But I have to be. I sanitize the room first of all. I bring like Clorox wipes. First of all, everything sanitize. I wipe down before I unpack. I do all that, and then because it's windowless, I'm like, all right, I have to treat this as like a laboratory more. Like I have to get out and get sun. I have to get exercise every day, and I'll think about sets and jokes for a certain amount of the day. And I really structure my day more. Otherwise, I'm like, I can't sit in this room. You lose it. So I just like these are the times I get out. I eat lunch, then I take a walk, then I work out, and then I go for another walk, and then I think about jokes, and this is when I take a shower, exact same time, and that gives me some kind of like
okay.
Were you always OCD, or did you like become? Because I feel myself becoming OCD in a way. Did it happen when you got older?
No, I think I was that way as a kid, really, but I didn't know it. And then when I drank, it all went away, and then it came back, flared back up again. But the drinking years are the only time I felt like I didn't have it. But I was a neurotic little kid, just didn't know it. Wasn't self-aware. But yeah, I have like now all these patterns too of like.
I'm starting to develop some.
Yeah, if I would play like guitar and stuff, I tried to play guitar. I would try to learn a song, and if I missed a part, I would play it for hours, the same fucking thing over and over, almost to the point where it's not productive. You just beat your head on a wall and get caught in a loop. And I would do that early on. I would get real like.
Can you play guitar?
Not worth
like
a shit.
Superpower for comedy, though, right? Would you call it?
No, because comedy keeps me functional because it's never perfect, so it sort of makes me crazy.
Yeah.
Because comedy being perfect doesn't really work. It's better if it has all the blemishes and flaws too, where you talk like a normal. You can't be a perfect speech, so I have to get the OCD out of it somehow.
Yeah, sometimes you watch somebody and you watch a comic and it feels a little Toastmastery.
Yeah, it has to be
you know
real.
What I mean? Like they're counting their ums and like every sort of like. There's not a
comedy. Yeah, it sort of helps me be functional in some way or get over the OCD because you can't repeat it. There was one time I was in Wisconsin years ago. I just told this story like in front.
Humble brag.
There it is, fucking Neenah, Wisconsin, and then fucking it was like 200 or 300 people. It was a good show. Somewhere in the middle, I'm gonna try this new joke, and I fucked it up. all right. So I was doing okay, and then I fucked it up, just tripped over it or got the wording wrong, and then I'm like, I want to try it again. Just in my head, I'm like, I tried to circle, I did it again and fucked it up the second time. And it was like the crowd was sitting around like a semicircle, like a half moon stage sort of thing. And then I went for a third time, and I saw a guy raise his hands to the side of the stage, just out of my periphery, and drop them. And he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Almost like, "Stop it. We love you. Stop doing this." I was trying to repeat a joke for the third time.
Right.
It's like that movie, like out of The Aviator, or Howard Hughes.
Did you get it right the
line.
third time?
No, I just fucking had to acknowledge how I was losing my shit. And then the crowd like laughed, like, "What the fuck?" We were all worried. You'd slipped into a thing.
We do worry about you, Paul.
Because I fuck it up. I want to get it right. I want to get it right. You can't do that in comedy. You just got to fuck it up and go, right?
Yeah, you can't flip the light switch 3 times.
No, I'm like, let's do it. Let's reset. Let's go again. You're like, no, it's not acting. You can't.
You're like
take 2. It's like, you fucked it up.
You like the
Let it
dude.
go.
I'm too drunk to remember who's the guy from Taxi, the stand-up comic, the weird stand-up comic.
Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman. You're like Andy Kaufman up there. It's like, no, this is just my bit. I tell the same jokes 17 times. Tells the whole
the stuff
audience
kills
leaves.
at the old folks home.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. It forces me out of stand-up's great. You just have to accept it and go. There is no. That's what it was. That's what it is. That's why it's great. It's in the moment.
Have you ever talked to Mark about his what does he he's have a set routine of writing?
No, we didn't talk about that.
You know, it's funny. That's the thing Attell I heard when I worked with Attell. The thing was, talk to him about whatever. Just he hates talking about comedy.
Is that right? See,
Which I can't imagine that's true.
Well,
but
I've talked to him about comedy.
Yeah, I feel like they meant that specifically to guys on my level at the time.
Yeah, that's probably right. It's probably like, hey, please don't bother him about how do I make it or something like. But I think if he respects you as a comic, I think he will talk to you about comedy. It's just not like, oh, please don't be like, okay, how do I get on television?
I remember being struck by when I watched him, I was like, oh, I felt like him and Hedberg had a similar song to the way they tell jokes.
They did that tour together too.
Yeah, and I remember saying that, oh, he does a little like you. He does a little of you when he does comedy, and he was a little taken aback by that.
Really?
First
no,
of all,
but I can see it.
Yeah, it's okay, good, because he gave me a look like, what? We are nothing alike, and I'm like, I don't know, man. The song of your voices,
the rhythm,
yeah.
I had a thing where I one time we were going to a Waffle House or somewhere in Atlanta afterwards, and then I asked him because it was a time I was really OCD where I'm like, if I wrote a joke in the afternoon, I know I've told you this and you too, but if I wrote a joke in the afternoon, I couldn't get a hold of one of you guys, and I didn't trust the other comics on the show, or I don't know. I was like, and I want to try it, but I'm like, I'm not sure it's original. I wouldn't do the joke until I got a hold of a comic that I respected who knows comedy and would go, no, that's original. You can do it. And I told him, I'm like, what would you do in that situation? He's like, that's crazy. He's like, you do the joke. You trust yourself.
Attell
good
said
intention. He's like, trust yourself. And he's like, if someone comes to you after the show and is like, dude, that's close to so-and-so's, then drop the fucking joke. But he's like, you got to trust yourself that you're coming from a...
Attell said that to you.
Yeah.
Because that's crazy, because when you guys were talking earlier, that's who came to mind. I didn't say it, but that's who came to mind about testing jokes, because he's infamous for texting people, be like, hey man, have you ever heard a joke that sounds like this? Like I've heard stories
That's
from
why
so
I asked
many
him
people.
that, because I knew he was off the charts with that. So I was like, hey dude, what do you do?
That's
and he said, trust you trust it, you're trying to write an original joke, and if someone's like, try it, and if someone's like, that's a little close to,
so he was trying to derail your career is what he was trying to do.
And then so
no, and I commend you guys for it, because I remember hearing Roy Wood Jr. was on a podcast all the time. I love
Another
Roy.
one, so good.
It's so amazing, right? And so he was on and one of this is an aside, but one of the things that made me appreciate him more is even though he's famous as fuck, he still holds a grudge against Paul at the Greensboro Comedy Zone.
Does he?
Well, in that podcast, he
too.
still did. He was being like, I'd almost do a fucking bar across the street just to not fucking do the Greensboro Comedy Zone, because fuck that guy.
What did he do? What did Paul do to him?
I don't know, but
he didn't.
Have
tell
you
the
met
story?
Paul?
Oh, of course. That's what I mean.
All right, yeah. No, I don't know the specifics, but I love that he still held the grudge, even though he's doing Bert Kreischer's podcast or something. Anyway, but that's the aside. But what he was talking about is when he was starting out back in Birmingham or whatever, he would consciously watch I don't know, Def Jam shows. What are they talking about? So I know not to talk about that. And he would consciously make it a point. Okay, that's been talked about, I'm not going to talk about it. And I'm like, dude, I have a hard enough time coming up with any jokes to try to dismiss entire fucking subject matter and premises because somebody else told a joke that might have not been my joke anyway.
Yeah.
But that's the approach that he had.
Yeah.
I remember, Tom, you said that we had this conversation before one time. You're like, I wrote a joke. You'll see something similar on Twitter. And you're like, well, fuck, I'm doing mine anyway because mine's better, you would say.
Yeah.
You liked yours better, and you didn't come up with it because it's just parallel thinking.
I just don't look it up. Like, I don't look it up.
Yeah, I don't really either anymore. I just go to do the until I see a couple people do the joke, and then I'm like, ugh. And then I'll be, but I will do that too. Like, nah, mine's better than that. So I'm gonna keep doing it. You know what I mean?
And it must be different enough, right?
Yeah, some of them,
same topic.
That's another thing about being on the ships that sort of is a negative. Is you need to have so much material,
Right.
that a joke that wasn't doing anymore, I'm doing again because I have to have 5 shows or whatever, you know. So yeah, there's jokes where I got to the point where I was like, okay, this has been covered enough times by enough other comics that I'm not doing it anymore.
And now you're doing it.
Now I'm doing it again. But
it's
I
your
still
joke.
think it's I still feel like it's still how I would tell it, you know.
Does it come into consideration at all?
So that's a little disappointing as a comic to have.
No, but I mean, but the other side of that is that, like, you know, there's no. I mean, I imagine the average case is there's not going to be other comics like in the back of the room at a cruise ship on a boat, right?
It does. It's just you know.
But I mean, in
Yes.
practical, but for all practical purposes, it's like. It's not like anybody in the audience is like, well, you know, we had a recording from you in 2008 at the Idiot Box where you said that joke. It's like, no, it's like nobody's going to fucking call you out on that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I noticed too is like there was a time
I don't hold it against myself that much.
Post Mencia thing back in the day where you get called out for being a hack and all that stuff, and then I feel like other people would get called out there for a while on the internet. That's fucking, and now you never hear of it anymore. And there's more comics than ever. And I'm like, is it just because there's such a wall of fucking noise that people are like, we don't even have the energy to police this anymore? I don't hear people like, not that it should be like, hey, that's close to someone, not finger pointing, but I don't hear anyone. But it used to be a lot more. 10 years ago, I felt like there was a lot more like, hey, that's like so and so.
Yeah.
And now everybody's like, well, fuck, there's just too much stuff out there. We can't even absorb this.
I'm a little bit of both. Like I just wrote a joke, our topic. I might have texted it to you this week, but I wrote this idea about the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
And did I text you that joke?
Yeah.
So I hadn't heard the premise, and I was like, oh, this seems like has been done.
It's funny.
But I mean, maybe the other part of that though is that people are more aware of that, so they're more hesitant to like put material out there that is genuinely stolen. Like maybe that's why you don't hear about it as much.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the hacks aren't putting out the stuff.
Well,
I mean, people are hitting definitely parallel thinking because everybody's feeding frenzy
100%
to get. So people are hitting, especially like Taylor Swift joke. I mean, Jesus.
I was telling you guys about the Gary Mule Deer documentary, which is really good.
I haven't written a Taylor Swift joke. I haven't even written one.
Why are we even on this podcast?
I don't know. I can't believe that. I thought you'd have 45 minutes on Taylor Swift.
That's the only reason we came. Was like, let's hear what Tom's take on Taylor Swift is. And now here we are.
That's weird that I don't have a single joke about it.
That's good, though.
But anyway, I was talking to my friends about that Gary Mule Deer thing. I told him he has this joke, and I thought it was very funny. But I mean, it was something like he has a guitar, and he's like, "Hey, you guys like country music?" He was like, "All right, well, here's one about Nigeria." I was like, "Oh, that's a good. I love that joke." It's just such a But you know what I mean? It's like a very easy joke when you think about it. But he was doing this joke in fucking 1972. You know what I mean? It was like, so like one of the guys pointed out, I was like, man, wouldn't it have been great to start out in the early 70s where like all these premises weren't already taken.
Right.
Like it's just an open field of like nothing's been talked about.
I've heard Tom do that joke.
Yes. Right. That's
That's not true.
So you're saying Tom stole that from Gary Mule
that's what I'm
Deer.
doing. 4 years ago.
I've never even heard that joke.
The Bahamas, he closed on it 12 shows in a row. No, it's never. I know.
But it was like,
the most
it was
original
like,
comic ever.
It's like if you think about, if you started out 30 years ago, like, all right, there's a lot more premises that you can talk about, I guess.
I don't know that it's weird.
Now it's just like,
I feel like we are talking about all the same thing, but I also feel like there's still a zillion topic that we haven't even thought to talk about
Well,
yet.
and the world evolves, and there's new things coming into it. Like I remember hearing that were you guys ever on the Road Comics?
I remember that
or whatever
thing.
that
Chat group
or whatever, where comics would just complain about being on the road.
I want want to say that's one thing I could pat myself on the back for. Like, and there's many things I do pat myself on the back for, but I've never been in a single comics community board.
Oh, okay.
I am, but I don't post.
Like, I've never been on to read any of them. I just have somehow figured out to ignore them since day one.
Good for you, man. I was on.
I think it's because I didn't want to see what people really thought of me, so I would avoid them. I don't know why, but I've always avoided them.
There was never anything to it. It was, I mean, and actually before Road Comics, there was like a used group that people would post on, but that was before my time. But when that came out around, it was Road Comics. And you would just, it was basically just bitter old comics complaining about stand-up.
That's probably why I didn't do it.
And that's all it was. And that was one of the things, like everything's been talked about, everything's been said. Who cares about originality, like that sort of shit. But I was like, no, the world evolves. There's gonna be new, like nobody was writing a joke about fucking TikTok in 1983. You know what I mean? Like there's still new subjects that if you try hard enough, you can still. But you know, there was also the other side of the older guys being like, everything's been talked about. Like, we care about being original or whatever that fuck.
It's the same complaints over and over every
time.
time. Do you feel worried about stuff you're talking about? Do you think like, shit, this is talked about by that had been covered already? Because everything you bring up is
even if it is,
it's already
I don't
been
think anybody's gonna give a shit. What I say.
See, like I've already heard him talk about nobody giving a shit. So it's like you're repeating yourself again, man.
Yeah.
Once again.
Fucking hack.
Yeah,
I didn't know if
you're
it's
doing
like
that material still.
more than material. It's like whatever works in comedy, everyone does it. Bothers me too. Whether it's crowd work clips or whatever else, it's like let's just beat the fuck out of this.
Oh yeah.
Someone got famous off of this. 2 people got famous. Now we all got to bleed it dry. That we're all doing the same thing. Maybe you're not doing the same jokes, but where you're from, what do you do, all that shit. And here's my clip. Here's my version.
I've heard somebody describe it as when like something happens, like the Stephen Hawking thing. People like all the comics try to act like they're Sword in the Stone. Like I'll be the one that pulls the fucking.
Yeah.
I'll be the one that gets this.
But somebody will be. That's the thing. Like somebody will write the hilarious
or whatever. Yeah.
Stephen Hawking is a pedophile joke. Somebody will write the
and have a
one.
great one. Good for them. Yes, that's great.
And so you're gonna hold yourself back because somebody might have written it. Like
Yeah.
no,
Right.
you got to put it out there. And then all right, somebody okay, they beat me to it. Fine,
I'm gonna
but
try
it's
to
like
tug, you know. Come
I
on.
just write every joke I can think of because 90% of them aren't going to work.
Yeah.
sure.
And then that's my sort of it's quantity equals quality.
And especially if you're talking about social media and Twitter and shit, it's like I'm not getting paid to post any of these fucking jokes.
I don't do it anymore hardly.
You never post on this. Like,
I went crazy for 10 years, posting every joke I wrote and putting my whole note. But now here and there I write jokes, or I'll write one that doesn't work and I take it down 10 minutes later.
you regret it.
Yeah.
I know.
I
You
screen
take 'em
cap.
down?
I screen cap all those jokes, by the way, Tom. So I can repost them at any point if you say the wrong thing.
I had a joke that was up for 4 minutes that I referenced that I took down today, and you were like, "Oh, it's funny how you waited a day to put that up." Like I took you.
Oh yeah, you
saw
made a
that
Super Bowl joke a day after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you saw it in a window of maybe 5 minutes that it was up.
Yeah, it was like midnight last night.
Well, he gets alerts anytime you post anything.
Yeah.
I gotta pee, guys. So
I
you
got
guys,
one piece too.